Okay, shared into that group. Now I'm going to go over into Zoom and see who's in our waiting room. We've got Tina. Let's let Tina in. Jason and Bill.
Oh.
Hey, Jason.
Hey, Jason. How's it going? Hi, Thomas.
Hey, Bill.
Tina!
Hey, buongiorno, Tina.
Buongiorno!
Hi, Tina.
Hey, Bill.
Hello, everybody.
How's it going? Nice to meet y'all.
Where are you located, Bill?
Up in the hills in Northumberland, on a sheep farm up in the hills.
Oh, okay. We were going to call the pub the Sheep Shaggers Inn, so a sign from God, you know.
I do get a few jokes about it. Yeah, I must admit. Yeah.
Got Greg and Ian coming in the house.
Yeah.
Sheep Shaggers in, and I think that's Greg Moffat we're going to have in here.
Hey again, Tina.
Hey, Bill.
Should we do it like this?
Yeah.
All right. Everybody's got their own square now, like a Beatles album cover.
Brady Bunch.
I hope you all have beers right now or something to drink.
Got a hot chocolate.
Hot chocolate? That's okay.
That's okay.
I'll forgive you.
Pathetic, isn't it?
Yeah.
Hey, Greg.
Hi.
Hi, Greg.
Hi, Greg.
Hello.
Hey, Greg.
Apparently, when I'm wearing this, I look like Orson Welles doing War of the Worlds on the radio.
We get enough beers in Greg, maybe he'll start reading us some more as well. Hey, Ian.
How are you in?
You watching the chat?
Yeah.
Sweet. I'm going to not worry about that then.
Yeah, I got it.
All right.
Okay.
And again, if anybody out there, we're going to have about 7 people on at a time. So if you would like to join us, please send me a direct message. I'll send you the link. And right now we got what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 guests on here right now. So if two more people want to join in, just send me a DM. And then as people filter out, we'll bring some more people in. So this is just kind of a casual hangout. If you all have any questions that you want to drop into the chat, send them over. We got Timony over here monitoring the chat, and she'll let me know what's going on. I got my messenger hooked up here, so send any questions you have over for us, for Thomas, for Timony, for myself, anyone. And other than that, we're just going to hang out and have a good time. If any of you guys here in the chat have any interesting stuff. I know, Tina, you just had an interview this morning, right? Or this afternoon?
Twice, actually. So it's just a continuation for tonight.
Oh, sweet. You were on with
Fiona.
Fiona Edgar. Yeah. Sorry, I blanked out there for a second. Well, hopefully.
Yes, and me and Bill just saw each other as well.
Right. Awesome. Hopefully Fiona can make it over tonight too. I'll have to send a message to her on Instagram or something. Or if you could, Tina.
Oh, I gave her the link, but she said she might, so she couldn't make any promises.
Great. Well, thanks for doing that.
I got another 30-day ban just this afternoon.
Yeah.
It was a good one this time. I thought it was because I'd said something about the vaccine, but it wasn't. I saw the message. It was I told Gemma to make a pot of tea using her own knickers and giving it to that guy from the Irish Sun.
Yes.
Somebody reported.
Worth it. Legend.
Oh, here, that you totally reminded me of something here. Well, obviously it's related, but
This could be dangerous.
So somebody told me once about this thing we have in Britain with having tea and coffee facilities in hotel rooms. My Italian girlfriend was kind of like, my parents are really confused. Why is there a kettle in the hotel room? You know, who would want to use that? Blah, blah, blah. And then she traveled extensively, backpacking and stuff. So people who are spending a lot of time, sleeping in campsites and what. And a hotel room is a luxury for them. And she said, "Listen, I learned something from these people. You will never use a kettle in a hotel again, because when you occasionally get a hotel room for the night, a really good way to boil wash your knickers."
Oh!
On this.
Sweat juice.
I have lived in hotels for the last 10 years, and I can tell you that I have turned them into a lifestyle. No, I've never burned my underpants, spoiled my underpants inside a kettle, but in the sink.
Maybe now you will.
And poured the boiling water over them, when I was running out of underpants. But it was like, I can't imagine anyone putting knickers inside a kettle. There's many ways of doing it.
Another thing, you can
She won't leave you.
put your wet socks in the toaster. I've done that.
Oh, geez.
In the microwave.
Probably smell like
No, don't defile that.
something like that.
Tina, you've seen some crazy shit in the kitchen like that, right?
If I tell you it, you will never eat out in the restaurant again.
I was stuck in Texas. I was in Texas, a hotel room in Texas for like a week, then 10 days, and I could find nothing to actually do laundry or anything. So I turned this hotel room into something I could see in India. Like, I found the air conditioner I could try to close. It was really amazing. I was totally self-sufficient. World War III, zombie apocalypse could have happened outside, and apart from food, I could have survived no problem. Which it was kind of an interesting experience, because it made me realize how spoiled we are in many ways. That you can kind of like live very simply.
Yeah.
Tina, earlier on you were talking about catching pigeons in the middle of the night.
Yes. Yes, I would. I would actually do that. I will get some branches. I will probably look it up on the internet before it goes down, how to make them. And I would place them all around the town and go collect them at night if I'm not allowed to go out, all dressed in black like a ninja. And then I would sell them, of course.
Yeah.
Hopefully there weren't someone's homing pigeons.
Ah,
And then that message.
Yeah.
sorry.
Probably something worth like 10,000 euros in the pot with it being boiled with carrots,
We should get some homing pigeons and see if we can communicate through them.
There'd be
Being pigeons.
Mean pigeons.
no meat on those pigeons. They're not like the ones that live in the trees in the countryside. They're like, there's actually food on them.
Yeah.
The wood pigeons.
It needs to be the fat ones.
Yeah.
It's very tasty, by the way. It's very good.
Poor man's pheasant.
Yum.
Oh.
Gotta do what you gotta do.
Yeah. We got, was it the chicken of the, squirrels are the chicken of the forest or something too?
Yeah. The tuna of the trees, yeah.
For the trees. And then we got
Squirrels. Speaking of squirrels, I had a weird squirrel experience today. So I had to drive. I drove about 100 miles from Cornwall, where I live, into Devon, which is the next county. And along the route, I just saw hundreds of dead squirrels along the road. I've never seen that before in my life. I've seen like the odd one or two, but they were everywhere. And then as I was driving back, one of these squirrels ran out into the road in front of my car. I was doing like 80 miles an hour. I slammed my brakes on. There's some miracle I missed it, but it was like it was trying to commit suicide. It just ran into the road and just like staring at me.
Gee.
What's going on? I've never seen people behave like that before.
When was this, Jason? How recent was this?
This afternoon.
Fucking hell.
It's totally weird. They were everywhere, like dead squirrels. I don't know if it's some sort of ecological thing where maybe last year there were like millions of squirrels born because of the lockdown or something. I mean, there's plenty of nuts around.
Were they grey squirrels?
Grey squirrels, yeah, like the American ones.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying it was really unusual because I've seen like the odd one like run over, but not hundreds. And we're talking over 100 miles here.
That's weird.
Yeah.
You get any pictures?
Wow.
I didn't stop to get any pictures of the dead squirrels. I can probably find one on the internet.
Can I just mention something, please, about that? I've seen that with rabbits. There's a place up the North Tyne called Unthank There's a band named after it. Unthanks. Now, I was driving. This is obviously out in the country. I was driving along, same with you, and there was fields and fields and fields of rabbits all running down off the road. The roadkill was extraordinary. I mean, there was no chance of missing them at all. And I wonder if it's the same sort of thing that happened with the squirrels you saw. I mean, there was thousands of them all running down the hill and across the road.
I've noticed since I moved to this part of Ireland, the roadkill has rapidly increased in recent years. I think because the EU now pays farmers to rewild the landscape, so they just don't farm fields, and so they're allowed to go back to nature. So as a result, there's lots more badgers and foxes and everything else. And I would say
we have massive rewilding.
Yeah, the odd squirrel, the odd badger. 10 years ago, you see them every day now, hit by cars. So there's more wildlife, definitely, in recent times.
I wonder if it has anything to do with what we've been talking about with the magnetic.
Well, that was the first thing I thought of when Jason said that, the animals are going bonkers.
Yeah. I'll tell you what has massively decreased, probably in proportion to the roadkill, is the number of bugs that you get smeared on the front of your car.
Yeah.
When I first started driving in 1990, it was constantly you'd wash your car and 2 days later, there was all this, bugs smeared over the front of it on the number plate and the lights and everything. And that's not really a thing anymore.
It's almost nothing now. No.
Weird. You don't see lots of insects. I saw the first dragonfly the other day in probably 5 years. I hadn't seen one for 5 years. A proper big old-fashioned dragonfly.
We had a spider in our window here earlier that was eating a dragonfly.
Yeah, little
smack dab in the middle of the window.
We're watching some kind of horror movie, and then I'm like, what's that? It's some kind of
every day.
What's that?
What about ladybirds?
We see them every day here. Dragonflies all the time. Hundreds of dragonflies we have. And they've never diminished.
Where are you in?
We're in Haddenham, Cambridgeshire,
right.
In the Cambridgeshire Fens.
Yeah.
And we've never seen bees on the decline either. We've got thousands and thousands of bees, many species, no problems at all. The only thing we have seen a dip in actually is swifts this year, very few.
Yeah.
All of a sudden.
Oh yeah,
there's normally hundreds, but
yeah, I had the same swifts visiting my shed for years now, and I think there's been a lot less. They know what's happening. They're putting up nets in Africa and they're capturing them as food. They're being eaten. They put vast across the sky on big poles in Africa, and they capture the swifts when they're migrating back to these islands, and they eat them, and that's what's happening.
Right.
They're eating for food.
Reminds me, have you guys seen that?
No.
Go ahead.
Which is a strange.
Everything else we've got increase. Everything. Badgers, deer. We've got more deer. Foxes come into the garden. Badgers come into the garden. I'm on the edge of a village, but it's still quite surprising. And we've got 2 types of newts, frogs all the time, heron, non-stop wildlife. We're very lucky, actually.
Tina, do you have?
If I walk. Say it again.
So I just said to Tina, does she have wolves over her way?
Wolves here.
We have had panthers.
Go on, Ian. Sorry.
We have had big cats.
Yeah.
We have had big cats, and they have come into the centre of Cambridge. They've actually closed schools because of it.
Wow. I suppose they're very dangerous then.
And they're nearly always described as a black panther.
Huh.
I've seen one of them about 15 years ago. And absolutely, those big black cats are real.
Right.
No doubt about it. I don't know how.
Absolutely they are.
How they stay so elusive, but they're real. I saw one. It was an absolutely enormous black cat.
I think it's because they don't tend to stay in the same area. They have a perimeter and they move in that perimeter, but they rarely stay at the same spot for long.
Apparently, they have a 200-mile radius.
Mm.
that they hunt. So the ones in Cambridge could easily be from Wales. Their radius is that big. I had no idea till I looked into it.
Oh yeah, I can remember for years, 40 and Times would always have on the cryptozoology page. Would also have always have photographs of them, and they see them running across England. And it looked like a black panther.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
And you mentioned about the birds in Africa. It's been the same here with swallows. Usually, the swallows return here. Last year, I noticed it first time last year. There was hardly any arrived. And this year, just been a handful of them. Whereas, I mean, right around where I live, they're building nests. And I wonder what had happened to them. I didn't think about nests, nets. Yeah, that explains it. Thank you.
A big food source in Northern Africa, which is weird because you wouldn't imagine there'd be much meat on something like that.
No.
Have you guys been seeing those videos people have been posting about eating crickets and eating mealworms? I don't know who that was. Were you the one that posted that? The one of the mealworms? Was that you? Somebody posted that recently, but there's this couple that they were farming mealworms on their countertop in their kitchen, and this dude was like trying to convince people that mealworms are like the greatest, will be the next protein source for people. So it's all these soy boys and tech people out there that they're trying to convince people that mealworms are going to be the next protein source. And it's just, I don't know. I know that you can eat mealworms. Tina, I'm sure you might be familiar with mealworms at all as like a delicacy, but I don't know. There just seems something weird about this CCP agenda of trying to get people to eat bugs.
I've eaten a live cricket before as a bet, but...
As a bet?
A drunk bet. I won.
We get drunk enough tonight, we'll have to have Tina eat a cricket.
Oh, yeah. I actually don't remember how it tastes, just as it was very crunchy.
Oh, I bet that. Yeah.
There was when I worked on Wall Street, there was these had all these kind of social clubs, and one of them was a wildlife club devoted to protecting insects for agriculture. And every year they used to have a banquet, and you could go. I never went to it, but you could go to it, and they would serve like insects that were commonly eaten around the world, like crickets and all kinds of other things, fried. And I spoke to one woman who went to one, and she said it was just weird, like all these super rich people, Wall Street investment banker types and old New York money, and they're all sitting around there eating like as if they're starving in the third world or back in ancient times. I mean, our ancient ancestors ate insects as well, but it was so funny. It's almost like it was fashionable poverty or something,
Oh, God. Yeah.
Super rich people have their own ranches with their own cattle on them that are not, injected with steroids. And here they are eating food that was what our ancestors ate because there was nothing else.
Yeah. Yeah, they're burlesquing us, not them. Yeah, they're making fun of us because that'll be the future that they want for all of us right now.
Anyway, so the Sláinte, everybody.
Yep.
Sláinte.
Sláinte.
Or over here, actually, the camera. Yeah, I got the computer down here over there. That's why we're looking right here. That's where my laptop is.
Thomas, I got a quick question for you. Just a bit of housekeeping. How do you do? You've got a pub background going there, so I've got a work team meeting tomorrow night, and I'd like to do something creative with my background. So, is that only a Zoom thing, or can you do it on Skype calls as well? Or
I don't know about Skype, but you can only do it on Zoom. Skype is like 1940s technology compared to Zoom.
Yeah,
I mean, I used it for that Aisling O'Loughlin interview during the week, and it was like literally, it was like going back to gramophone records where they used to wind up the clockwork motor. It felt like that. Skype, and the quality is terrible as well.
Okay, so how do you do the Zoom background then?
If you see at the bottom of the screen, it says "Stop Video."
Where
on the left-hand side, "Stop Video."
Oh yeah.
Click on the up arrow, and you'll see "Change Virtual Background" or something like that.
Okay, and so you can select an image from your
desktop. Yeah, keep the resolution low so it doesn't eat up the bandwidth.
Okay.
I just did this real quickly right now. It was so easy. I was actually looking for two fellas fighting in a pub. That's what I really want. But when I get something like that,
I want to hear the sound of the bar stool.
Well, we could start a fight now if you want. Did you spill my fucking pint?
No,
hey, buddy.
Are you gonna pay for another one, or I'm gonna have to call a fucking ambulance?
Am I going to have to open the medicine cabinet? Yeah,
I know.
Let me go get another. I'll be right back. Do you need one?
Sure.
All right.
That was this. I was talking to this woman that grew up in Dublin when I was a kid. At the same time, I don't know if you know Dublin, but there's a famous vegetable market called Moore Street where it's all old ladies all sell vegetables, and they call out slogans. And we were remembering when we were kids the slogans that some of these ladies used to call out, and they'd be things like, and there was one woman I remember, she screamed out, "Beautiful carrots, long, just like your old man."
Oh,
and
shit.
It's like beautiful carrots straight out of the ground, long, red, and just like your old man.
Oh, no.
It's not finished, and just as filthy.
Are they calling their cucumbers Housewife's Delight?
And there was more freedom in many ways back then. I was just thinking about that. Like, that would be considered so offensive now.
People would be clutching their pearls.
Yeah.
Think of the children.
Fuck them kids.
We have anybody on Facebook that would like the link. If you'd like to join us, please just send me a direct message over here on my profile and you can join us. We still got a couple slots left here if anybody wants to come on and have a beer at the gang. So plenty of time. We're going to be here for a couple hours. So
she was telling me another story about a friend of hers was telling her that her husband mistook one of her HRT patches for a nicotine patch and put it on him. And she goes, for the first time in like 20 years, he told her she loved her. He loved her from the HRT patch.
I mean, what's even in that anyway? I don't know how that operates. In
HRT patch.
Yeah, like I don't even know what.
Yeah,
just right.
Estrogen, yeah. I think apparently you can. Jason probably know. You can absorb as much medicine through your skin as you can through your stomach.
More, actually.
That's true.
Yeah. Like literally anything can get you. Any kind of medication can get through your skin. You don't have to like orally take it.
You can keister it.
Butt chugging? No. Everyone's straight faced. Obviously, you all are familiar with that one. That one. Yeah.
God damn it.
Tina knows what we're talking about.
I'm wisely keeping my mouth shut.
Guys are fucking weird. We're out of here.
Straight to your lower intestine. No. So
what was that? Timony, what was that word that you used just a moment ago? Because there's something I want to. Yeah. So what is that? What's that slang for? What I think it is.
Asshole.
Yeah, because there was a TV show I was watching years ago. Police Squad, and it was kind of the thing that came before the Naked Gun films. And at one point, this is just farcical comedy. And at one point, the police have opened up a locksmith's, a key cutting place as a way to be undercover in a local neighborhood. And the mob come in and try and shake them down for protection money. And he was like, you don't pay us, something might happen to your little key store. The guy goes, "What about my little keister?" He goes, "Key store," and I never understood what that was, So.
Yep. I'll write the definition.
Putting it in the chat.
Keister, not.
I think I've got it.
Yeah.
When I first moved to the US, they had very strict rules on television about words they could say or not say, and we should see old films that were, where the guy says, "God damn you to hell," and the guy would say, "Gosh darn you to heck" on the TV version. Oh. And it almost became an art form. I mean, this would be like 11 o'clock at night, I mean, I can remember like when I left Ireland, the BBC and not RT, maybe so much in Ireland, but like the ITV, regular sexual scenes and nudity was quite common. The F word and all kinds of languages all over the place after the watershed. But I was amazed by like how puritanical the TV was in America at that time. I remember like there was an episode of Dallas where it was caused a national scandal because some guy found his wife dead in the pool and called J.R. Ewing a bastard. Like he went, "You bastard," and it was like they had like the moral majority and everything. They were big in America at that time. It was amazing, really, like the power that they had to like create this false kind of like where Americans were like just as free as any of us as people, but the television was so heavily censored, the mainstream TV. Cable TV was actually created in order to get around a lot of that kind of stuff, like because you'd have like literally Pat Robertson and Jimmy Swaggart and all these TV evangelists watching television, the 700 Club, and saying, "Oh, you can't say this or you can't say that." So it was unbelievable. And that was like well into the late 80s that was still going on, maybe early 90s.
Yeah, that was a bit like Mary Whitehouse here in the UK.
Yeah.
She was she was before well, I don't know if she was before or contemporaneous with the US TV evangelists, but it was the same basic sentiment, wasn't it? Like, I'm a frustrated old bag, therefore you should have no fun in your life.
Mm.
You remember they used to dub the movies, like the swear words.
Yeah.
If you used to go and rent a video, I remember in the like late 80s, I remember I rented, was it like Lethal Weapon or something like that with Mel Gibson, and they dubbed, like whenever they said something, it was dubbed as Muddy Funker.
Nice.
Like, Muddy Funker. What the hell's that?
Yeah, I can't remember which British comedy show it was, but they did a parody of that. There was a show in the 90s, and they were doing a parody of a mafia film, with all the swearing left, right, and center. And every time somebody said "fuck," they substituted the word "fun." No. So one hood is saying to another, "You fucking my wife, I kill your fucking wife," and it's just, "Did you fun my wife?"
I remember
So much better.
it was better. Benny Hill did a comedy sketch where he was explaining to Germans. It was quite racist when you think about it, but he claimed that in the joke of the comedy sketch was that Germans didn't get metaphor or allegory that the British would use. So he was explaining the song "Pop Goes the Weasel," the nursery rhyme. He goes, "Half a pound of tuppenny rice," and he go like half, a half, 1/8 kilo of a small cereal, half a pound of treacle, a syrup that you actually put on food. That's the way the money goes. This is how we spend our Deutschmarks. And then the last one, and a small furry rodent explodes. Pop goes the weasel.
That's good.
Could I just mention Get Carter? This is in relation to, I was in America. I'd like to talk about that as well. It was 2 months after 9/11, and Nelly got shot for taking the piss, but never mind. We'll come back to that. I'm in Kentucky, and I was talking to my friend about Get Carter. That was because some of my relatives were in it. The original one with Michael Caine, not that dreadful American version. And I was saying I managed to get a copy out of the local Blockbuster, or it was. And my friend was in a state of shock at the end because it didn't have a happy ending, sort of thing. It was just really weird. I mean, because it's a very dark ending, for sure. But then this is around about the time Sopranos had just come out, and you've just some of you been saying there. I've just pieced that together because the Sopranos must have. It's no wonder it's still got such a hold on people because it must have been quite a revolutionary thing to come in with all after all the Christian shit and all of that. Yeah, you just answered the question there. Yeah, but my friend was in a state of shock. Like, wow. It's like, well, what do you expect at the end of incidentally, somebody that I knew worked in a charity shop threw Michael Caine out of the shop. And when he was filming Get Carter and Gateshead, he went into the shop and he was thrown out. And I said, "Well, why do you throw him out?" Because he was quite well known as an actor, She said, "I don't care. He's from London. He's from London, man. What can I have one of them? Can I have one of them cockney bastards in here, And it was, we were all quite proud of it, really. But yeah, I don't know what he made. I never found out what he made of that. Sorry. Yeah.
I was involved in the first full frontal nudity scene on Irish television. Not me, but I was involved. The school that I was in was the first. I was 11, no 12, and it was the school that I was in. They'd filmed a gritty urban drama about life in a tough inner city school called The Spike. And it was like, the Middle Ireland was up in roar over it. How dare you say, young people who live in the city carry knives and stab each other in fights and stuff. We had to play that length, this kind of thing. And it was like this kind of thing. There was no sex and violence in Ireland. That's how it really was at that time back then here. And there was a scene in it where an art teacher strips naked for the students. This would be like the late 70s. And oh Jesus, and you basically saw everything through a kind of a screen, but it wasn't like full glaring frontal nudity of a woman. But there was literally a revolution over it. There was like the Bishop of Galway had a heart attack and was rushed to the hospital. There was like all things in the paper the next day, like this is the end of the society and stuff like this. A program for children's school and it has full frontal nudity. I think like the producers got sacked and were never hired again. It was the stupidest thing. It was just like over nothing. But like this moral majority thing seems to, I don't know if it's just in Belgium where you grew up, Tina, but it seems to be kind of shows its head everywhere in every country every so often.
I actually think that the same thing happened to the Romans. There was a time that the Roman comedy and the theaters were extremely vulgar. And then this Puritanism came in, and then you had these writers that had to write entire pages just to describe cock and balls. But it's true. they had to circumvent those explicit terms with all sorts of metaphors and descriptive words, and what for, really? Yeah, we all know what you're talking about.
Happened in the Habsburg Empire. They used to have opera that was like really like carry-on movies. It was very risque, very suggestive, very dirty for the working classes. And that's why like the royals took control of the sponsoring patrons of like Mozart and Salieri and opera, this kind of thing, to make sure that they wrote, moral operas.
I think that we should just find the habit of collectively ignoring these people.
Yeah.
This is the only thing that gives them any say or power over others, is because we listen to them. And why really? Because they say we need to listen to them, but who are these people?
Yeah.
Well, look at the effect of Father Ted on Ireland.
They loved it. It was because Father Ted was actually considered like liberating here, because it happened on the tail of huge numbers of sex scandals involving the Catholic Church. So by the time Father Ted came out, people were ready for it.
So interesting hearing the different media cultures from other countries.
Yeah, we've probably got some of the strictest censorship here in the U.S., like you're saying, Thomas. It's just this weird Puritan shit that came about, I want to say, in like there's that same era, like the late 50s, 1960s. There was just this like...
Leave it to Beaver.
Yeah, but like a Puritan overlay that showed up. It's like, oh, we got Nicole wanting to join. I'm going to send her the link real quick. Sorry.
No, I remember Howard Stern saying that when they relaxed the censorship on radio in America, he actually stopped being funny, because it was the censorship that made him be more clever and creative to get around. So therefore, he was actually more kind of, his jokes were funnier. And when they said, oh, you can, when he went to Sirius and they said, you can joke about anything, say any word you want, go ahead, he suddenly found out that was like, I'm not that funny anymore, because because the hidden satire was dead. It was murdered.
Yeah, everything used to be about innuendo and kind of suggestive, saucy postcards and all that kind of stuff, isn't it?
Yeah.
If you went to the British seaside in the 1950s or the 60s, it was all about sex, but it was all completely, innuendoized, should we say?
Yeah. And it was more sophisticated in a lot of ways. If you look at those, I find those English saucy seaside postcards.
Well, speaking of saucy seaside postcards, we've got Nicole joining us right now, so I think she'll be here any moment. I don't know. I think Thomas is in out, but Nicole, can you hear us?
Sort of.
Hey.
Hi.
Same last name.
Yes, thank you.
Are you all related?
No, I picked it. I picked Wild and changed it to that.
Yeah, no, I spell my last name the same way.
Yeah. Do you know Stuart Wilde, the metaphysician?
Oh.
Yes.
Well,
Yes.
yeah, so
Yeah.
when I was getting divorced, I didn't want to take my maiden name back because I had issues with my family, right? And I had a first husband and I didn't need that name, right? And so I was like, well, it's a perfect time to pick my own name. And so I spent about 3 months trying names on, and I was listening to a lecture that Stuart did. And I thought, gosh, I wish that guy was my dad. And then I thought, well, Nicole Wilde, that sounds amazing. That's perfect. So that's what I picked, and the judge signed off on it. So
that's funny about trying on different last names. So I was adopted. So my last name is Wilde. And there's been some stuff with the family too. So I just wasn't really sure if I wanted to carry that last name. So on Facebook, it says Timothy Brigham. That's my middle name, my grandma's name. But legally my last name is Wilde.
Cool. Well, I'll claim you.
There you go. Perfect.
So I'm in Alabama, the United States.
Okay. Yeah, we're in Washington.
Yeah, I'm from Washington originally.
Which part?
Darrington. Do you know where that is? Northeast of Everett.
Oh,
Okay.
Yeah.
I lived in Bothell for a while, not too far from there.
Okay, cool.
I'm originally from Albuquerque, but living here now.
That's awesome. I like living everywhere. I'm kind of a gypsy.
Me too. To live kind of over by where you are now. I live in Louisville.
Oh, okay, nice. Yeah, I love the South. I hate the weather in Washington.
Yeah, it's fucking hot.
You guys are much better.
It is hot in Washington.
What's that?
It is hot in Washington.
On the east side, yeah. It's hotter.
Oh.
We got hotter this year than Death Valley and Phoenix. We got to like 120 something.
I always had this impression of Washington be cold and rainy.
It is on the west coast, on the west side.
Down area.
Where I'm from, the weather's shit.
I'm from Belgium. I know what you mean.
Yuck. Yeah.
Cascade Mountain Range, and then on the eastern side of the desert over here. So this is right next to the Colorado River, and it's just like 112 earlier.
Colorado River?
Sorry, Columbia River.
I was like, wait a second.
Not the Colorado or the Columbia. I've been drinking, but it's just a desert over here. It's arid. There's gentle rolling hills.
We're a high plateau.
But over.
I had no idea that there was even a desert in Washington. Well, the more you know.
Right in there.
And Tina, you're from Antwerp, Belgium, right?
I'm from what?
You're from Antwerp?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, the north. North of Belgium, the Flemish part.
You're the second person I know from Antwerp.
But the whole of Belgium is very bad. Oh, sorry, what?
I said you're the second person.
What'd you say, Jason?
I said you're the second person I know from Antwerp.
Oh, who's the first?
He's a drummer.
Well, Belgium is a strange country. I find Belgians to be not my type of people. Brilliance.
Yeah, you're cutting up a little bit, but I don't know if that's my internet or yours.
No, I think it's mine. I just got a notification that my internet is unstable.
Well, now we can hear you. They didn't want us talking.
Can I show everybody a cool book?
Yes, please.
Have you guys ever seen this? Oh, there's a light on it.
No.
Oh, you just disappeared there.
Yeah, I know. It's the fucking... There. I got this for a present a few years ago. It's a limited edition book, and the publisher was Brian May from Queen. What it is, it's a collection of stereographic photographs from the Victorian era of scenes of hell. And you look at the photographs through let me see if I can get the camera. Fucking thing. Through, come on, you bollocks.
That's so weird.
Thomas is a specter.
Yeah.
Maybe turn your background off, Thomas, then it won't. If you turn your pub off, we'll be able to see it.
We're at a real pub. This would be happening too.
Yeah.
Oh no, did we lose him again? Shit. Nope, there he is. Okay.
I'm trying to, I don't know how to remove the fucker. Hold on a second. Okay, see it now.
Yep. No. Eating it again.
Right. So the stereographic photograph scenes of oh, it's really fucked up now. Hold on. I'm just gonna get a better background.
I saw a meme earlier on. It said Zoom meetings are like seances.
Yep.
Totally.
There we go.
a sign if you're still here.
Yeah.
You see that? They're all pictures of hell, right?
Yeah.
They're stereographic photos like this, see, right?
Mhm.
And when you look through a pair of glasses that comes in the book, 3D glasses, that comes in the book, the images pop up in the most amazing way. Like you're like in hell with all these like devils and demons and stuff like that. See, this is a folded pair of, isn't this fantastic? A folded pair of 3D viewer, right? And then you put that part, this square on the page, and you look through these lenses, and the views come to life. It's mind blowing, and you can look behind the. Do you remember that thing when we were kids? That gaff thing. It was like that, but better. And this guy in France, he made loads of models of. Back in the Victorian time, he made loads of models of hell in like small scale. And there are things like people having parties in hell, like getting drunk. And I don't know if you can see it, the demons and stuff, you see?
There was an album that came out 2006. It was the Tool album, 10,000 Days, and their album art had a pair of stereoscopic lenses. They published that with their album. It was beautiful.
I must have got some of those cards from the First World War, and it's a very old scope thing. So you got the troops in the Somme and place like that. Stereoscopic.
Yeah. It's an amazing technology for its time. Consider how simple it is. Well, how it's done is like one picture of the scene is taken, and then another a few degrees off, like I say, an inch or two away. And then when the two are meshed together in these glasses, it looks like you're actually seeing behind them and everything. But it's a really strange experience. It's almost like psychedelic, like you're on drugs or something. And it's more than just 3D. There's a kind of I can't describe it, like a psychedelic. That's why a psychedelic experience to it. Almost.
That's what it's like with some of the cards, especially stalactites and stalagmites.
Yeah,
they're actually in the cave. It's quite scary, actually, how realistic it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I could imagine what it looked like to people back in Victorian times, who never saw video games or anything like that.
I love it.
I often even think of like lots of things like that. Could you imagine, say, a peasant from, say, a rural area in Europe back in the Middle Ages traveling to like Notre Dame or some of these great Gothic cathedrals and seeing not only the size of them, but the stained glass No wonder they thought God lived in these buildings. It must have just blown their minds, you know?
We're going to see a Wagner opera or a Beethoven symphony.
Yep. They've never heard those instruments.
Yeah, and the way that it envelops you when you're in the concert hall.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've played in an orchestra. That's amazing.
Yeah,
Something
exactly.
else.
Ian, what do you play?
Yeah, quite an experience. I used to play the trumpet. That was my main instrument, but I'm synthesizers and electric guitars now. Well, anything really. I've got mandolins and didgeridoos and what have you.
Nice. Well, I played tuba in an orchestra for a long time, and I also play synths now. But yeah, it'd be awesome to play in a brass section with you. We could play some Prokofiev or I've been listening to a lot of Liszt lately.
Yeah, I can remember doing Capriccio Italien by Tchaikovsky, and to have 15 trombones over your shoulder, you know, and timpani off to the right and all the rest of it, it's just incredible.
I know.
Amazing.
Make an album, right?
Yes,
you guys are going to drop an album.
Jason, you mentioned timpani on one of the Beyond Room 313 things, and what blew my was hilarious because you talked about having synesthesia.
Yep.
So when you're hitting the drums, and it was, I mean, this is like a guy whacked out on acid, you know. It's like it must have been extraordinary.
Yeah. I mean, you can have some tremendous experiences without the substances. Even I was talking about this on symposium with Lon recently. That I had my first, like, kind of, if you want to call them, psychedelic experiences when I was a young kid in a concert hall. And the same thing, like Ian, like you're saying, when you're performing on stage, like especially as a you are the bass in the orchestra, and there's just this incredible almost I could describe it as like an out of body experience as you're performing, like sitting here in normal everyday life, like very much in my body, but when you're performing in a group where everybody's nervous system is up, it's like an out of body experience. And I mean, you being a brass player, Ian, you get it. Like
I haven't had that feeling any other way.
Yeah. And especially as a brass.
So I haven't had that feeling any other way. It's very special. It's unique, definitely.
Do you still play, Ian?
Yeah, synthesizers. That's my big thing. I love them to death, particularly analog. I actually make my own. So I've been fiddling about with electronics since I was 10 years old. And for me, that's the best application for electronics, music. You can't beat it.
Do you do Ian? Do you do modular?
Sorry?
Do modular synths? Do you do modular synths?
Yeah, that's what I'm working on now. I've just built the case, actually, which has saved me a lot of money over buying one. So I'm about to start building the modules themselves from scratch. I've been collecting the schematics for 40 years, and I've been collecting electronic components for nearly 50.
You do Euro.
So
I was looking at some of the gear I gave away to people back in the day, now being sold on eBay, and the prices that goes for. Like I gave away old Roland 808 drum machines and early sequence. I didn't need it anymore. You can have it. I gave them all kind, like an Electro Harmonix original Memory Man. Analog Echo, which is like beautiful. Gave it away. Loads of keyboards, loads of effects pedals, and early sequencers, MIDI sequencers. I gave them away, and I look at the price of them now on eBay, and I weep that like I gave away thousands and thousands of equipment for nothing. I just gave it. I said I don't need it. Have it.
I'm really lucky. All of my stuff is early 80s. So I've got a lot of classic of the earliest digital synths. I've got one or two analogs as well. I've got a modern analog, which I really love, the Arteria Micro Brute. Oh, it does my head in. It was only 200 quid, and it's just a joy to use. A knob for every function.
Greg, do you still have any of your old gear?
So I can switch myself on and off with this. Well, not me, but my voice. No is the short answer, but listening to what you guys just been saying, there was a time when I started buying synths in around about 1990 that things like the Yamaha DX7 digital had been out for about 3 years or something, and And what was the very early digital thing? I can't remember what it was. Wave, wave some.
Yeah.
No.
Oh,
it was an early. It cost
PPG did it. Didn't they?
Yeah, wave term. PPG wave term. It came out in the early 80s. And so digital was going to be the future. Vinyl was going away, CDs were coming in. As far as electronic music making was concerned, analog was going away. And I managed to pick up in a local music shop, like Moog Rogue and all these other bits of kit that they had stacked at the back of the shop. This analog stuff, Korg Poly 61 and Poly 61M. Nobody wanted this, and they were just they were totally neglected. And they had all the new shiny digital stuff, and I did get some digital stuff. But then a point arrived, as Thomas has indicated, many years later, when suddenly people realized, what the fuck were we doing? And although now a lot of the modern technology, you can buy. I've not been playing for a few years, so I'm not quite sure what the state of the art is, but you can get computer software that can emulate all these classic analog synths. You can get, £500,000 worth of classic analog stuff just in like a download to use. But nonetheless, for purists, there's still great attraction for the actual kit. And you're right, it's just for a fortune. When I think what I paid, they were almost paying me to take it away. It's like, do you want that, mate? Or it's 20 quid. They hadn't even priced some of this stuff up in the early 90s because they were so disinterested in it. They hadn't bothered putting it on display and putting a price on it.
Yeah, I use all the.
I've got a number of classics.
Since I don't have any money for
as well.
I use all the digital stuff for the Beyond Room 313 scores and everything. So I don't have the money for nice analog gear, but I use Ableton Live and a few emulators. It works great. A lot of it is the waveforms themselves have been sampled from old analog gear, and the technology with the filter, and especially the filters, those emulators work great. So that's what, with the symposium theme, with the weekend stream theme, all that's digital.
Yeah.
There's lots of noise.
I actually gave up with computers, to be honest. I found them too difficult. I just want to show you a little device I happen to have here, actually. This is interesting. Have you ever seen one of these?
Is it a MIDI, audio to MIDI?
Yeah, it's an audio to MIDI converter. It's actually amazing. I think it was about 40 quid. British made. You stick a guitar or a mic in one end and MIDI information comes out the other end. So you can play any synths by singing into them, playing your guitar into it, playing a stylophone into it, playing a mandolin into it, anything.
For those of
you can play.
If you don't know, MIDI stands for Musical Instrument Digital Interface. Hope that's cleared that up.
I remember.
Sure thing.
I remember when MIDI was 5-pin plugs. That's how 5 pin. There we go. Yeah, 5-pin Phillips plug. Yeah.
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Still works really well, even though it was invented 40 years ago now.
Yeah.
Oh, make me feel old. Yeah.
I got a few of those. Yeah, those work great. Yeah, that's all the synthesizer.
These are good. These are good if you take your time, but they are only monophonic. You can't play chords.
Yeah. Yeah, it's hard for MIDI to take polyphonic information and turn it into something. So, but yeah, if you want to put something in there, it's great for making a bass line. Yeah.
I like to chain synths together. So as I've got 20, it's nice to be able to play 12 simultaneously just from one and that sort of thing, Ooh, the power, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I love them to bits.
The velocity of now to theme, people think that I spent ages working on that. It was just the Yamaha synth and polyphonic chords and phalange, and it was done in 20 minutes, from ahead to the recording. And it's it's just an amazing piece of music that it just came like that, and it became iconic, almost after a while.
Amazing how just one sound can instantly.
Yeah.
Just going through the presets and you think, oh yeah, let's try that.
That's the magic of it. It's almost like alchemy.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. And that's why I like the modular stuff, because you're creating something completely new. There aren't any limits modular.
I saw a documentary about Rick Wakeman back in the day, and he would be using cassettes, and not cassettes, they were like 8-track things that had sounds on them.
Yeah.
This thing would, Greg would know about this, I don't, but it was like, during the prog days, they would have like one sound, a continuous tone on an 8-track or a 4-track tape, pop it into a machine, and then they would have, that would be modulated by the keys. And they were literally changing cassettes in the 70s while they were, it was just unbelievable. I don't know how they managed to pull that stuff off live. The pressure.
Same with the Moog synthesizer. That was not the Mellotron. Sorry, not Moog. The Mellotron.
That's it, the Mellotron.
That was really clever.
Used on strawberry fields.
Yeah. Quite an amazing thing. Yeah.
I love it when a piece of music can come together in a few minutes like that. It's the same thing with the symposium theme and the beyond, or the Wicked Strange theme. It's just, I'll sit around and have the sonic palette, and then the ideals will come, and just 10 minutes later, it's done. So I don't like to spend a lot of time working on something. I'll spend some time mixing it to make sure that everything sounds good for you guys, but I the composition process, I try to do it all quickly. I did that one on the train, actually, the one for the symposium. I was going through Central California on the Coast Starlight, heading south, and just the ideas came, and I
works really well. That's really good.
I would have done my own music for my media stuff in the last few years, except I just don't have any keyboards anymore. But I'd have knocked something together, you know. But there's so many. There's so much stuff out there now that's like, you know, I mean, the technology has become so accessible now that the era of instruments that we were talking about that was in Rick Wakeman's time, you know, that was so exclusive and so elitist, is now available to anybody, just a kid in their bedroom. You know, they can have access to decades going right back to the beginnings of electronic music in the early 20th century. They can have access to all of that, you know, just in a
Behringer have copied nearly every classic synth going, and you can now buy, you know, a copy of a Moog modular for much less than you can the real thing. They've copied nearly everything in Behringer. They've copied the Wasp, the Octave Cat, the ARP Odyssey. I can't remember. There's tons.
They did the
Roland.
It's just like books, isn't it? It's just like books. Libraries, kids, 16-year-olds today have vast access to archives of literature and books.
Enormous, yeah.
That, like, it's like the whole thing. It's like they've never had so much knowledge available to them for free, and yet it's not taken. You know, it's like this weird paradox that we live in. You know, I'm not saying all kids. I know there's all kinds of kids out there, but I'm saying, you know, in the age of TikTok, they have the archive of humanity available to them on the same floor, free, and it's ignored.
It's like you said a couple of days ago, Thomas, the idea that like there used to be that discovery of whether it was like a book that you found or your dad's porno magazine or something. It's like, you know, there was that discovery phase.
Or your mom's.
Or your mom's, yeah. But there was that discovery phase there where like you could go find the occult book or something, and now everything is just on your phone that you keep in your pocket. And it's just nothing.
The sort of like threshold initiatory element of that has been stolen.
My mom's weed in her fake plant next to her bed.
Yeah, it's like like when you were a kid, if you wanted, say, a certain edition of a comic book and it wasn't available, and you went around the comic book fairs or the book fairs, and then you suddenly got like the July 1981 issue of 2000 AD, which you had missing out of your collection, there was something unbelievably magical about that. Because it was nowhere else except in other people's collections.
Yeah, it was Discovery of Forbidden Worlds.
Yeah, I remember like there used to be a secondhand shop near where I lived, and I don't know where these guys got the book. People used to bring in the books and sell them. You know, that was basically how they lived. They had no money. This place had thousands. I mean, when I say thousands of paperbacks, it must have been hundreds of thousands of paperbacks. And to go into this like suburban bookshop and find all the Dennis Wheatley books in there secondhand, and then other things like Crowley books and magic books that people had, like some hippie had in the 60s that got rid of them, or they got married and their wife made them throw it out because it was bad or something. That there's something about that was so beautiful and so powerful. And yet, you know, I can remember talking to a guy who grew up in Eastern Europe. I don't know where it was, Bulgaria, Romania or something. And when the Iron Curtain fell down, he said every single adult in Romania felt like a kid, because you could go and get the Bowie albums that you'd only heard about. You know, like it was suddenly everything that was forbidden to them. All their Christmases came in like one year, 1990. And he said it was the most beautiful feeling in the world. Things like bananas and oranges were often hard to get then in Eastern Europe. And they would actually go and buy a load of bananas. And I can remember like some of the stories you hear. Well, they said like, yeah, we were poor. Yes, were held back by communism. But that holding back by communism made them more appreciative of things that Westerners had taken for granted. And we now live in a world where everything is taken for granted. Because,
do you want to see my first ever occult book?
My one?
No.
Show me.
It's the first one I ever bought when I was 14. It's ancient. It's Techniques of High Magic by Skinner and King. So it's basically condensed Golden Dawn magic. And it was really easy to follow, but at the age of 14.
That's awesome.
It's falling apart. Look.
That's one you should hang on to forever.
Yeah, absolutely. I think all three of my kids have read it as well. So.
Really?
I've got the same edition actually.
Have you?
Yeah. Funny enough, just an addendum to what Thomas was saying. Where I work, my day job, matrix job as I call it, we've got a new exhibition at the minute. It's focusing on a sculptor in the early medieval period. But I was reading about some of the memorials that he'd done to various people, you know, carved in stone. And it was just talking about this bishop back in the early medieval period and his life, and how when he died, he bequeathed his collection, get this, his collection of over 500 books to the cathedral, you know, and it was kind of like, oh my God, this guy's got over 500 books. Nobody in the world has got that many books, you know? And where I've got 500 books under my bed.
Yeah.
I've got loads. Yeah.
I remember when I was a kid.
There's another one.
When I was a kid, I was really into the
Necronomicon.
Yeah.
Highly underrated book. It actually
absolutely
it's slagged off mainly. Yep, there we go. Mainly when I was funny enough, that's a synchronicity, because when I was looking for this, I accidentally picked up, if I can find it somewhere, the Necronomicon guidebook for Providence 2019 when I went to the Necronomicon there. And the slagging that they gave to Simon's Necronomicon, it was either atheists saying, oh, there's no such thing as the supernatural. And then you had like other people saying, oh, it's just like, it's a made up hardcore thing. They just don't understand that it doesn't matter. It still works. It still works.
Absolutely. And many other things do.
Underrated book. But that was my first one, Alfred Douglas, the tarot and its useless.
Oh, right, yeah, I've seen that. Yeah, marvellous.
That's the original one too. It's like falling to bits as well.
Got it right here as well.
Yeah, great book.
Right next to me.
Yep, stood the test of time.
And of course, David Conway's book, which I can't find at the moment.
Yeah, do you have the original on the black cover?
No, mine was the blue and beige cover.
Yeah.
So
the original publisher included an index, which is very useful. But when they printed it from the 1990s on, whatever publisher took it over, and it's just stupid, really. They removed the index. You know, books like that, the index is very important.
Yeah.
The newest version of it does. The one that's like a mint green, that one has the index in it. I'm pretty sure that's a copy I have. I don't have it here. I'm pretty sure that one has the index in it.
I'm afraid I'm going to have to go now, guys.
Okay. Before you go, can I tell you a cool story? A very cool story, right?
All right.
Yeah. In the 1930s, when the Third Reich came to power, a psychologist wrote collected dream stories of Jewish people living in the Third Reich. And they were having incredibly vivid dreams of the moment after the election and Hitler became chancellor. Incredibly vivid dreams. I was researching this for the Walpurgis Night second edition, and the dreams were them wandering the world looking for a place and finding themselves being marched along roads and ending up in places where their passports were thrown into the sea. They were all very apocalyptic and dark, but very, very vivid. They all said the same thing. If they didn't dream that much, they dreamed very, very vivid dreams. And Bruno Bettelheim, who made the book The Usage of Enchantment, about the real meaning of fairy tales, actually wrote the study of these dream things, and basically said they were prophecies of what was coming under the Third Reich. Now, that element, it was concerning to people. The German government wanted to know why people were having deep dreams. The Third Reich themselves were involved in this. They couldn't explain it. The only other time that in history that has happened was when the lockdown happened last year.
Wow.
People were reporting vivid, deep dreams to the point where the mainstream media, I know you've all seen them, the BBC and everything has covered this, and they tried to make out the same. The Third Reich rationalized it by saying, well, the suffering of Versailles is over. The German people are going to be free of debt. So you're not going to be working for the rest of your life. You're going to have a lot more leisure and a lot more easy time. So you're getting better sleep at night. You're not worried about repayments because of Versailles anymore. So Germans are sleeping better, and that's why their dreams are deeper. Well, the psychologists, I looked on all the mainstream sites, and they were saying the same thing. In 2020, the reason why people during the lockdowns were dreaming so deeply is because they weren't working 9 to 5. Because they were having better REM sleep. The exact same rationale. So I look at both of those things, and I see that people were in 2020 were dreaming for very foreboding reasons. And this is why the establishment took a big interest in it and immediately tried to say, oh, it's just because you're getting better sleep because you're locked at home on your pandemic payment. You're not having to go to work anymore. So very interesting, I find that. But I just wanted to hear that, Ian, before you go. Have a think about that. Yeah, have a think about that. I was very suspicious as why all the major websites were going on last May, about March and April, about dreams, or you're all having dreams. It was almost as if those bastards knew.
Yes.
We were going to have their dreams, as our subconscious minds were telling us about, watch these fuckers, what they're up to with this scamdemic. Pay careful attention, they're up to no good. Just like Jews in the 1930s had them in Germany. And before that was found out by people, they sent out all their sort of like state-sanctioned psychologists to say, oh, it's only because you're getting more sleep.
Yeah, that really interesting Jabberwocky dream that I had a couple months back, and I was waking up, and as I was waking up, the old illustrations, but there was a whole new meaning to it, and I came out of my dream thinking about what that archetype means now.
Yeah.
So
I'll see you later, guys. I've got to go now, I'm afraid.
Thanks for having me.
See you next time.
Good talking to you.
Good talking to you.
Bye.
We'll have you on
the.
We'll have you Ian on the symposium in a couple of weeks or a couple of months. You're on the list.
That'd be an idea, mate.
You're on the list.
Yeah, that'll be really good. All right, then. Take care, everyone.
All the best.
Nice to see you. Bye.
Thomas, you did a thing on dreams. Do you remember a while back?
On the velocity of now.
Yeah, I sent you some a link to some free software to help you analyze the dreams.
Yeah, I remember that. That was I actually stopped those dreams because of what happened at the Bataclan
Yeah, I remember.
Because I was like, half of me was nervous. Are we creating this shit?
Yeah.
Because it became so accurate. Like the one before the big explosion it was not Wuhan, someplace it began with Tiananmen or something like that in China, and an enormous explosion happened in the docks.
Mm-hmm.
And the week before, people reported in their dreams, China, big fire, China, big lighting.
Yeah,
and there was videos of just this harbor exploding a week later. And then right before the Bataclan, something to do with Paris and a cultural center.
Mm-hmm.
And then I said, I'm stopping this right now after the Bataclan thing happened.
It's a great experiment, though.
You know, it actually proved that people had premonitions, no doubt about it. No doubt about it at all. But it also was kind of, I became frightened because I was thinking, okay, you know, we all know that this five sense reality thing is created as well as experience. And I said, I wouldn't feel comfortable. I don't want to know anymore. You know, it's like the same reason I won't do tarot readings for friends in terms of divination. I just don't want to do that to them. You know, that kind of thing. If something negative or bad came up, so I'll only do tarot stuff for psychology and stuff like that. I think to me it's a double-edged sword. You have to be really careful with.
Yeah, that whole thing was starting to get a bit like Stephen King's The Dead Zone, wasn't it?
It was, and I was actually having I was actually in a bad way over it after the Bataclan. And I went into a really bad depression over it, and I was really frightened. And then I just said, fuck it, I can't do it anymore. As successful as it was just, I just couldn't have the ownership of something that could be something like that or to be connected to it, you know. But yeah, The Dead Zone, that film is very, very good. The Christopher Walken one, where he has the premonitions by touching or holding hands.
Yeah, didn't you do that as part of your one of your film analysis things?
The Dead Zone? Did I? I don't think so.
Oh, I thought you did with
that's a show.
Yeah, it is. Yeah,
I probably did. Yeah. Not the 313 things. Oh yeah, I love that movie. I
thought it was with Neil MacDonald that you did it. Was that not one of your featured movies?
It was with Neil MacDonald. You're right. You're absolutely right. Yeah, that's right. He had never seen it. In fact, he'd never seen a lot of the films that I like, and that was what was good about Neil, is that I could like throw these films that he'd never seen at him, and I'd never seen at me. So it was like fresh eyes, not knowing what to expect. So it's a good exercise to have. But that film has stood the test of time very, very well. I particularly like the character of the murderer's mother, Colleen Dewhurst. She's fully aware that her son is a serial killer, but she won't report him. She won't, you know what I mean? She won't. It's almost like she's nurtured his pathology.
Yeah, the Dead Zone, actually, that was the first time I saw it. I cried. I don't mean like just openly weeping, but I just had tears in my eyes when she comes. I don't want to do any spoilers here.
I know, but the girlfriend, when he comes after the coma.
Yeah, and she comes she comes to the house and calls on him.
It's desperately sad. Yeah. And she's married with kids, and he's been in a coma for 5 years or whatever, and he's still in love with his girlfriend. That he only went to sleep yesterday before the coma, and she's moved on and everything. That was a desperately sad story. That, yeah.
Mm.
I like subtext stories like that in films. I was talking to you tonight about the Mothman Prophecy.
Well, that's because it's like real life.
Exactly. And I know, and the horror, it's like, which is the worst horror? You're having your heart torn to bits or encountering a monster or something like that.
Right.
And in the Mothman Prophecy, there's this beautiful, the terribly sad story about a man who's lost his wife in a car accident. On top of this excellent story about paranormal, it's really, and it's Christopher Reeve. No, what's his name? The actor. I mean, he's the guy who was in Officer and a Gentleman. oh fuck it, I can't remember his name. But the guy they made he's a big famous actor in America. But he does this speech about like a happy couple, everything's going great, and then suddenly the universe decides I'm going to destroy them. And it's just like one of the most beautiful scenes I've ever seen in a movie expressing that loss. And yet it's in a horror film, you know, like you wouldn't, you know, and you watch these relationship films and Richard Gere, and you watch these relationship films and they don't have half as anything as deep as that and as powerful as that sentiment. And The Dead Zone had that as well when the girlfriend came back and he was still in love with his girlfriend, but she had moved on, had kids with another fella.
So I'm going to have to go, guys. But this has been a really good idea. I don't know if it was you came up with the idea, Thomas, but
no, it was I think it was Jason and Timothy came up with the idea.
Yeah, no, it's been a lot of fun. It's been really interesting. It's been kind of in a way down the pub in the sense that, you know, subjects that come up, what comes up comes up.
Exactly.
And
well, this is the parallel society. That if we can't go into pubs out of Vax ID, we'll make a fucking pub like this online, you know.
We're gonna do what we want.
Yeah, well, good news, I think, on that today here in the UK with the government minister responsible saying we're not going to have vaccine passports for nightclubs and large scale music events because it's totally unworkable, and actually saying we're in danger of creating a discrimination. So we'll see what happens going forward.
That's refreshing compared to what happened here, where they were like, hey, it's discrimination, we'll deal with it.
Yeah, exactly. So
yeah, pretty much what's happening in Italy right now. Draghi, the prime minister of Italy, basically promised he would go door to door to vaccinate people if he has to.
It's not.
No, seriously, I will. I have no other way of saying this, but he will come into very close contact with my assault rifle. Whoever is, no, there's no other way. I mean, you cannot do this to me.
Yeah, it was like the way the fascists tried to control it. They never did completely. The mafia like hated Mussolini, and you know, as soon as they had a chance to take him down, the mafia were fighting alongside the Americans and British to take him out. So it's like
it's because against all their business interests.
Exactly. So hopefully the same thing happens in Italy with the vaccine. It's like, yeah, oh, you're going to stop us opening all our nightclubs and all our concert venues? No way.
Oh, Thomas, you have no idea how violent the protests here have been. There was a party that kind of flip-flopped on the whole Green Pass. First they were against it, then they got into government, even it was into the opposition. And then all of a sudden they were pro Green Pass. They had a stand in a protest in Milan, I think. They were lucky that they did not get beat up. It really got that violent. It gets to this point here, especially in Italy, because people here, I mean, they don't pull any punches at all.
Yeah, that's great news, Greg. I have to say, really brightened my day hearing it. The problem here in Ireland is they don't look to London. They sort of like develop this weird connection with the Scottish bunch, who are all like globalists as well, the SNP and all that. So it seems to be like Ireland and Scotland are kind of like working without saying it. And whatever happens in Scotland will really determine what happens in Ireland. You know, but they look at England. I know the Irish papers will be full of things like tomorrow, like, oh, if they open up in England, that'd be foolhardy, you know, this kind of thing.
Like, yeah, Nicola Sturgeon, that
thing.
Yeah, I mean, what a creature. Oh my God. She makes Angela Merkel just look like milk and honey, you know.
Well, that's, you know, that from growing up with Northern Ireland. That's Sinn Féin. They're the same people. They're all like, they all pretend to be nationalists, but they're all the most vicious kind of globalists.
Right.
I don't think that they have the support that they're trying to tell us that they do.
Yeah.
Like in the United States, I really believe there's a lot less people vaccinated than what they're saying.
I think so.
I mean, like, at least in my area, like, there might be one person at my work that is vaccinated. Do you know what I mean? But I work with young people, so I'll give you that. I know some older people that have taken the vaccine because they were scared into it. But for the most part, even my friend that I saw yesterday that did take the vaccine, she said she's surprised at how many people she knows that haven't. Because we were talking about this. I just don't believe what they're saying, that they have all these people that have gone along. It doesn't look like it to me.
Where do you live in the USA, Nicole?
I'm in Birmingham, Alabama.
Oh, I love Birmingham. I love Alabama.
I do too.
It's some of the best times of my life there.
It's a great place.
I'm so excited. I absolutely fell in love with Alabama when I was there.
I did too, and that's why I moved here. Just a really special place.
The nicest people in the world, and God, the women were so good looking as well. I was like,
and beautiful landscape, like so much nature here. It's awesome. I love it.
Get up and go to work at 5 in the morning, and then the mountains with the deep red sunset coming over, the sunrise coming over the mountains, and that red soil. I had some of the best times ever there. That's awesome. I absolutely love the deep south of the USA.
Me too.
Okay,
like,
guys,
I've
got to check out as mentioned. So nice meeting those of you who haven't met before, and nice catching up with everyone else. And whenever
next Sunday, you're welcome.
Okay, cool. Well, I'll look out for it. So enjoy the rest of your evening, afternoon, whatever it happens to be, and we'll speak soon.
Cheers,
cool.
Greg. All right. Nice to meet you.
Bye.
Bye.
All right. So
I work in a coffee shop, and it's a Dunkin' Donuts, and so I open. So my shift starts at 4 a.m. and I'm the drive-through lady. So my drive-through window is facing east, so I get to watch the sunrise every morning at work, and it's awesome. I love it.
Do they still have that statue of Vulcan in Birmingham?
Yes. Yeah.
They have a statue of Vulcan in Birmingham, guys, and he's using his hammer to hammer the universe into reality. It's fantastic.
Because Birmingham is the Steel City.
Yeah,
but Vulcan, he was created for the World's Fair.
But the Christians were complaining. They were saying it was a devil.
Right.
When I was there, there was a big protest. They were saying this is a statue of a devil. And the artist was trying to say, no, it's the Roman god of the smith, Vulcan.
Right.
Yeah. But I remember that was a little bit of a tiff there. But the company I was working for, the guy was, when you hear this one, he was a pastor at a local church. Now, he was okay to me. I never got any shit or anything. They were all very nice to me. And he was just a very good professional. I went down there to learn to do traditional carpentry. A friend of mine down there was a traditional joiner. And he used to do carpentry without nails. So he could build an entire house without nails. And he said, come on down for the summer and I'll teach you how to do this, because I wanted to learn. So I took me on as an apprentice. And it was just such an interesting job. But he did this artisan woodwork, right? He was actually a shipwright originally, a boatwright. And so I was learning how to make beautiful mortise and tenon joints and dovetail joints by hand. And he was showing me all the techniques of how to season. It was actually fantastic. I was getting paid for it. And there was just me and him were the only white guys there. And the rest were all these black fellas. And they were the greatest bunch of people I ever worked with in my life. It was just beautiful. And this whole thing of the South being full of rednecks who hate black people. It's
not true.
That shit.
When I told them in New York I was going down, they were saying, oh, it's all KKK down there. It's all racist. I never came across such beautiful integration between black and white people as I did down the South. There was no the working class, and we had some of the best times ever. But
so the divide is more urban versus rural.
Yeah,
it really is. Like, so the closer you get into city center, you find, those are the people that are against the people like me that live in the country. And my rural neighbors that are African American or of other color, we are tight because we have the same interests.
I was like a spaceman down there. I was like an alien from another planet. When I arrived on the building site that day, on the construction site, and there's all these like southern black fellas and all these what they call good old boys, like they'd never met a person from another country, let alone an Irish person.
Wow.
And it was like it was just hilarious. It was like, say something. They were like, what the fuck are you? You know, it's like they'd never met anyone from like, and especially the black fellas, but they were not nasty or anything. It was a novelty.
Right.
It was a novelty. And then they were like taking me around to their houses to introduce me to their sisters and stuff like that. and when I left, they were all crying and hugging me and everything. It was just one of those beautiful things that made me see how wonderful humanity was. And
So
when
you have to experience life to know the truth.
And they're saying, "Oh, it's all rednecks down there, wasn't it?" And I says, "You fucking douchebag!" I says, "I met some of those beautiful souls I've ever met in my life down there." And,
it's always those people that go on and on and on about racism that are the worst racists of them all.
Oh,
I mean, I never met an actual non-racist person that has race on their mind the whole time they meet another person.
Yeah.
It's just a human.
And they were only interested in me because I was a different accent. I was a different part of the world. They never met somebody from there. It was pure interest. It was pure novelty. There was nothing judgmental about it, you know, that kind of a thing.
But it is the same interest as when you go to another country and you meet people of, even when they are as white as you, but if I would go to Norway, I would be the same. I would be like, oh, wow. I mean, I'm so intrigued by it all.
Yeah.
But they happen to have the same skin color as me.
Yeah.
But I had the pastor guy who ran the place call me to the side one day and he says, "Thomas, I haven't talked to you." And it goes, he says, "I'm getting reports they're spending all day laughing, telling them jokes all day long." And I was telling them like really dirty jokes all day. And I said, "Okay, well, he wasn't nasty. He was just telling me." He says, like, you know, one of them could fall and have an accident and we get our insurance, maybe in trouble or something like that if they're all roaring around howling after you tell them jokes. But this guy turned out to be a pastor in the local church where he didn't like fellas from the building site going to drink beer on a Friday after we finished work. We used to go to what they call, I'm not kidding, a titty bar where there was like a woman dancing topless, and that was the only pub. There was no pub. I don't know how it is in Alabama. I'm sure there's Irish pubs and everything there.
We don't really have pubs here.
They were on the outskirts of like places like Alabaster and these towns, right? And that's where I got there was a girl there dancing in a pair of tight knickers and topless. And that was the bar. And all they had was Coronas in tubs of ice. And it was surreal. And the bar was a shithole. Probably hard. And it was fun too as well. And the girl behind the counter was topless and stuff like this. It was just really weird. But the guy calls me to one side and he gives me this kind of moralist lecture. I heard some of the jokes you told Thomas were pretty risque. You know, I don't approve of that. Turns out that he had a front of being married with a wife and 2 kids, but he was in a gay relationship with one of the builders, one of the carpenters. So the hypocrisy, you understand? Like, right. he was a gay guy, but he was hiding his gayness through ultra straightness, ultra Baptist church.
So that's why he had to make a big deal of your joke, just to keep up his ruse.
Exactly. And they were all telling me this. And he says, "No, I mean, they used the F word to describe back then. That's how it was. But it was like, oh, yeah, him. They ignore him because that's all hypocrisy. But they were all wise to that too as well. You know, they were not like, it was amazing down there. It was an incredible experience, and I learned so much. And the girls really did look like Daisy Mae Dukes from the Dukes of Hazzard.
Yeah,
they were stunning. You know, 6 foot tall, legs up to their neck, wearing hot pants. You know, and that Southern drawl thing with their hair down to their arse. It was, and like the boobs out, like they were like that.
When was this, Thomas? What year was it?
Yeah. Now they're a bit heavier.
Were you there, Jason?
Well, I went off on a little mini odyssey around the States when I was 21, which would have been 92, I think. And I went all the way around on a train on my own, and I went all over the place, and I stopped in all sorts of out of the way places. But one of the last places I went to was New Orleans. And I was like, I was going to spend one night there. And I woke up like 2 weeks later and I was still there, like sleeping on the ground next to somebody's pool or something. It was the best place ever. It was just so different.
I remember what, yeah, it's incredible. Go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, I mean, no, it was just such an amazing sort of vibe going on there back then.
Y'all gonna take
it like now.
I remember after we finished work, we'd go out in a truck, watch the sunset. I'd be sitting on the banks of the Mississippi, right? The sun going down with this sort of like the crickets all coming up, the bats coming up, and the alligator eyes popping up in the river. It was just, and then the big turtles, you'd see them. It was just like, and it was just, it's real. It's like all the things that Elvis and you hear the Southern songs, you know, it's true. It really does exist, you know, the Cajuns and all that. Yeah.
Southern New Orleans is really, or Southern Louisiana is so cool because it's so swampy and creepy.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it's really a neat landscape. But all of the United States is really kind of amazing and fascinating and worth like traveling around.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I love the USA. People don't give credit for being how interesting and diverse it is. It really is.
Well, you know what's so sad to me is so many Americans don't even know how interesting and diverse it is, and haven't taken advantage of the abundance and the cheapness. It's really pretty cheap if you want to just get in your car and go. You can do that. You don't have to have a lot of money. And
Nicole, but it's true that you as an American can go on holiday in your own country, literally be in an entirely different place than where you are from.
Yeah.
And you never even have to leave your own country.
It's like 3,500 miles from coast to coast, right? And then how far is it up to down? Because that's a little bit of a ways. I lived in an RV for like 2.5 years. Yes. And I started in Washington State and traveled all over in it, ended up in Texas. And then I had a beach house in Texas for a minute and battened down the hatches on Galveston Island for like 4 hurricanes last summer and thought, you know what? I need to get to be where I want to be when the music stops. And that's Alabama, where I have a good network of support. And so I sold my house in Texas and moved to Alabama last November. And it was like the best move ever. I'm so happy.
I tell you what I did like about Alabama. I didn't like the food.
Yeah.
I found like a lot of it was a lot of the desserty type things were very sweet.
Yeah, it's really junk foody, and we're like the fattest
even
state.
the traditional stuff like moon pies. I was saying, how the fuck could anyone eat that?
Let's start right here.
Well, and the sweet tea here is so sweet.
And boiled peanuts, I thought was disgusting. You know.
Oh, I like boiled peanuts.
Okay.
I think those are great, but
now, words, Thomas.
So I lost 135 pounds, and before I moved to Alabama, and I did it like keto, and then I switched to carnivore. So all I eat is meat. So I found a local farmer and bought a side of beef, and that's what I eat, you know, and drink water. And I do drink coffee. I don't buy coffee because I work at a coffee shop, but I do drink it.
You see what it was? I was living in New York where you're spoiled for every kind of ethnic.
Oh, yeah.
It's affordable and
Houston has great ethnic food too.
Yeah, but even the regular New York diners and stuff, the food was really high quality and really inexpensive.
Yeah.
The food seemed very poor down south comparatively.
Yes.
But what I did used to love going down there was Waffle House, which is a chain. I don't know if they still exist.
Oh yeah.
That's our national food.
I think they have like 500.
I used to treat that with a reverence. I used to treat that and people, they used to do this like burger that was from 2 pieces of bread. It was like a cheeseburger, but it was 2 slices of bread. And it should taste like shit, but it was actually really good, you know, that kind of a thing.
My travel companion called
I love pancakes. I love pancakes.
Oh, see, pancakes are something I can't do because when we were little, my dad would make stacks and stacks and stacks of pancakes, and he didn't fucking eat them. He just liked to cook them, but he would make us sit at the table until they were all gone. So I have
My grandma used to do that, Timony. I know what you went through.
That's a very Irish thing. You fuck eat everything on that plate, or you're not leaving the kitchen.
But he didn't eat them. He just liked to cook them, but hours and hours and just fucking pancakes. And I can't. I am fucking pancakes.
If you didn't only not eat them, you would get them again the next dinner, the next dinner time. My grandma would just serve them to me again until I finally ate that.
But Tina, the food in Belgium and the beer and everything is beautiful. Belgium is really good place to go eating and drinking. I love the mussels and everything.
That is because we have a French tradition of culinary. We learned from the French. And then our food is mostly meat.
Yeah, and you got
potato varieties.
Really good sausages, and I remember you got the Germanic thing too. Like and then the desserts are beautiful, like the waffles and the chocolates and everything. And the beer is just sensational. So Belgium does have like fantastic food.
Oh yeah, Belgian beer is a World Heritage, I think by now. I think UNESCO finally acknowledges this World Heritage.
There you go. Yeah.
I don't know what that is.
It's Fat Tire, but it says New Belgium on it.
I'd be suspicious of that.
The one I used to drink in Belgium was Sixtus. Remember that one? It had a picture of a monk on the bottle, and there's a blue label.
Much better beers than that.
But I used to love that one. I used to like that and sausages. It's lovely.
I'll tell you a quick anecdote about Belgian beer, because I used to live in Copenhagen, Denmark, and I was working for a newspaper there, and the embassies there used to have these functions, and I got invited to one by the Belgian embassy, and it was in this posh hotel, and it was a really fantastic dinner that we had. There were like hundreds of people there, and they served us like 14 different types of Belgian beer over the evening, and each one was amazing, and we were all completely pissed, obviously. And then the very last thing, there was a coffee, and then we got the coffee, and it was hot beer. That Belgian coffee.
I have never heard of that.
Yeah.
Of hot beer. Holy shit, that must be fucking disgusting.
It was great. It was like chocolatey, rich coffee, but it was beer.
Yeah, and anytime I ever went on the piss there, and I'd go to the pubs in Belgium and I'd say, I want one of that, try this, and I'd go through everything. And I'd be walking out of place shit-faced, right? But I wouldn't have a hangover the next day.
No.
The beer was much more natural or something. It passed through your system. You'd wake up a bit, but a cup of coffee and a few glasses of water, you'd be fine. It'd be just like ready for the day.
I have heard a theory about that. Is that because the beer is made with local water? I don't know if that is true.
But you get really drunk, but you don't get hangovers. I never got a hangover there ever.
I had a few.
But I only drink beer. I don't touch. I can't drink spirits. I can't drink anything hard.
No, yeah, it's a bad thing. It's a bad thing to mix alcohol.
Oh yeah, but even like I can't drink whiskey or any vodka or anything. It makes me very ill, even on its own. I can't. There's something wrong with my system.
Yeah, I have the same things. For some reason, I can digest beer very well, but wine or hard liquor, no. I get a really nice buzz out of beer, but once it goes to wine or
I can't do wine either.
I can do wine.
It must be a Celtic thing, because it's like I've noticed that like the Celtic people can drink beer and red wine, but they are destroyed by serious alcohol, and stuff. So it might be a genetic thing. I know the Belgian people are Celtic, aren't they? The Belgian. So that would be the same thing.
Julius Caesar said we are the most bravest of all the Gauls. No, of all the the Belgae are the bravest of all the Gauls.
Yeah.
Right.
I guess I'm alcoholic.
Tina, what's your favorite Belgian beer?
Oh, that's hard to say. Blonde, red, or brown?
Let's say brown.
Gouden Karol is donker.
Okay.
Where's that made?
Mechelen is a city I worked in for over 10 years, and they make a really good beer. Golden Carolus.
Is it what kind of brown beer? Is it like a syrupy brown beer kind of thing?
No, it's bitter.
Yeah, okay.
Do you
it's
like,
bitter in a way.
I was gonna say, do you like Pirat? That's a brown, right? Pirat? Yeah, by Duval, yeah. Duval Pirat. No, you judge.
I don't know it.
The thing is, you have to remember, Jason, there's thousands and thousands of beers in Belgium.
This is true, yeah.
Literally every town will have its own dozen or so. Even villages will have their own local small breweries. And it's been like that for hundreds of years.
That's like in the US now, but everything here's a fucking IPA. I can't stand IPAs.
Sour piss.
Sour piss, yeah. But yeah, if you have a chance, try Pirat by Duvel if you like brown.
I will send you a Gouden Carolus for your birthday, Jason.
Yeah, my favorite Belgian is probably Hoegaarden. And I know that one's like kind of mainstream, but Hoegaarden's my favorite Belgian.
Leffe.
Yeah, Leffe.
Oh,
Leffe brown.
That's the one I know.
Yeah.
That one is pretty famous.
Yeah, it's really nice.
It's not great.
Yeah, but you see,
it can turn sour very fast if it goes from.
You're saying that as a Belgian, but outside to get the beer outside of Belgium, it's like Irish beer is piss basically. It's other than stout, and I don't like stout, but it's like not that the best compared to what you guys made. So what your average beer would be really good to us, you know.
Is it the water?
No, I think they're really good at it. It's like the Czechs and the Germans and the Belgians. They just treat it with a reference that the same way. Here's my theory. You know the way people say, their mother's cooking is the best cooking they ever tasted, or their wife's cooking, because the love goes into it, right?
Right.
Like you go to an Italian pizza place where it's run by a family, and it's the best pizza you ever tasted.
100%. I agree with you.
The love goes in. The same with the beer, and places like the Czech Republic and Bohemia and Belgium and parts of Germany, the love goes into the beer.
Okay, I'll agree with that.
More than the industry. It's like the wine in France, the love goes into it.
But a lot of the beer here was produced by monasteries or monks.
Yeah.
And they also had a charity factor to it. So all the beer that they couldn't use, or just the excess of it, they would give to the poor people, and it would be free from a tap. In many cities, these taps are still there. Yeah. You cannot actually get beer from them now, but in the past, people would be able to get beer from them. And it is liquid bread in a way, because it is a part of the beer that won't get you drunk, because it doesn't have the alcohol content, but it does have the nutrition in it.
Well, in the UK and Ireland, people drank beer to stay alive because the water was so dangerous.
Yes.
That's why in Victorian times, someone working in a factory in Dublin or London or Bristol would drink 14 pints of beer a day because the water was so dangerous.
Yes. Yeah.
So, I saw an amazing documentary once about the sewerage system in London, which is actually one of the greatest engineering systems and things ever built in history, but no one knows because it's under the ground. And it happened because there was a cholera outbreak, and literally everyone in London was dying except for 14 guys in the East End of London who worked in a brewery, and they didn't drink the water, they drank the beer. And instantaneously they knew the cholera is in the water, and they had to separate sewage from water. And that's why, if you go to many European cities, there's often a statue, especially in Northern Europe, there's often a statue to the engineers who designed the sewage systems, because they literally saved millions of lives from cholera.
Yes, unfortunately, we did have Black Lives Matter here too. So those statues probably don't survive to this day.
I know.
Oh, the statues.
Mm-hmm. Those fucking white supremacists saving lives of white people.
Yeah. Well, here's to drinking beer instead of water.
I'm not actually in my local pub, but the picture behind me is my local pub.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's like 500 years old, and because I live in a town that's associated with pirates, Penzance. Yeah, in Cornwall. It's Penzance. You may have, there's an opera like Gilbert and Sullivan.
I've been on holiday there once. There was some good restaurants I remember, but a very bleak train station.
Yeah, it's still pretty bleak.
Galveston is a private island.
But I used to, when I was there, we walked up the beach to Marazion.
Marazion, yeah.
Along the train tracks, and it was beautiful.
Yeah.
Up there was like a restaurant. The name of the street I always remember is called Go Dolphin. I always remember that name.
Yeah.
And there was a restaurant there, and it had a seafood dinner there that was absolutely sensational. It was like one of these kind of like seafood platters with like oysters and clams and everything.
Yeah.
Of the fish was beautiful.
And there was a sister hotel about 200 yards up the road from it, and I worked in it as the barman a couple of years ago. And it was you remember I was talking with you at the time because it was the most haunted building in Cornwall.
Yeah.
There was all sorts of weird shit going on there. They've demolished it last week. Completely raped it.
You sent me some pictures, I remember. That was like a historic building though, wasn't it?
It was a historic building. It's been there since the 17th century as a coach house. I don't know why they've knocked it down.
I thought it would be something like that be listed.
Yeah. They said it was unsafe, so
unsafe for who?
Hi, is watching everybody say hi.
Unsafe for who?
The whole unsafe thing, it's the new way to lock everything down, whatever. It's unsafe. Oh my God.
Yeah.
I hate it when somebody tells me, oh, be safe. My new thing is I just look at people and say, stay free.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was talking to a guy here that used to, back in the 80s, would get old steam engines and locomotives and they ran them on a piece of track in the Midlands here in Ireland. And they would run the trains, no problem, no training in anything, no health and safety. There was never a single accident. Now their insurance premiums are through the roof. Everyone has to wear yellow vests. Everyone has to be trained as a train driver by the actual state rail company, has to get a license. And totally, yeah. And they had now, what used to be a lot of fun, a bunch of guys fixing all trains and running them on a piece of abandoned track. He said it's just been turned into like a bureaucracy now. And they have to have everyone who gets on the train has to sign a form. Just bullshit. And it's all that EU health and safety stuff.
Thomas, have you ever driven a steam engine before?
No, never have.
Man.
Have you?
I love that smell. Like, have you?
No. I thought that if anybody, Thomas would have, but yeah.
No, I've been to lots of heritage railway in England, especially. They've got fantastic steam train lines, like up in Yorkshire and stuff like that. A lovely smell of coal and everything. But no, I've never been actually on the what do they call it? The plates, the foot plate. I've never been there.
I thought if anybody would have, it would have been Thomas. But yeah, I've always wanted to. I know they've got a couple places here where you can drive some old diesels, like the old F8s and E8s, like the war bonnet that you like, Thomas. Yeah. But I have to do that sometime.
1,000 horsepower. Could you imagine that behind you, like 4,000 or 5,000 horsepower?
Yeah.
Going through the Grand Canyon, just unbelievable, How that must have been. But I was inside the cab of a diesel engine when it was running, but I wasn't driving it. It was because there was a friend of a friend said, you want to go for a quick trip across the road or something. But it was amazing. It would just turn the little notches up on the thing, and you would see that the thing would start moving slowly. And I'd say, go faster. And he says, this thing weighs 100 tons. It
takes a minute.
You know how hard it is to stop those things. It's very difficult when they're doing passenger trains. In the old days, and the big trains in the old days, that was a real skill to say, okay, I'm 1,000 yards or 4,000 meters from the end of the station. I now have to time the brakes. Those train drivers had an unbelievable skill to actually stop that thing on time at the actual end of the station platform.
Yeah.
So my grandfather was a brakeman for Burlington Northern, and he actually lost a leg at work right above the knee because he slipped kind of under the train as it was coming to a stop, and it cut his leg off. I mean, he managed to catch himself and just one leg went under. But
Jesus.
Yeah, right? So I wonder what kind of trauma comes from that through the ages, like my dad's dad having that trauma when he was a young guy, and how that affected him and how he dealt with my sister and I. Do you know what I mean? Like we're affected by our family and their hardships way more than I think we realize.
Yeah. My family, a lot of them are gangsters and stuff like that. A lot of my uncles and stuff were gangsters and things like that. And I know exactly where that came from. Now, they were good people. They were just involved in crime, you know, like, just, you know, I wouldn't say killing people or anything like that, but like things like not paying taxes or getting stolen stuff and selling it on. And I know exactly where that came from. My grandfather worked in the Jameson's whiskey. You've all heard of Jameson's whiskey, a very famous Irish brand, in the warehouse in Dublin. And because he was a Catholic, the only job he could get was literally they tied like a horse. He was like an animal. And they tied a kind of a plow kind of rake thing. And his job was to spend 10 hours a day walking up and down these huge warehouses in all kinds of weather, turning the grain over. He did that for 30 years. His father did it for 50 years. And that was and there was no, because they were Catholics, there was no chance in that company of promotion, nothing. You went in there at 16 and that was it until you died or something. And that's what made them move into things like organized crime and stuff, some of them, not all of them, into organized crime, because they were like, if that's the system, why am I a part of it? You know, that kind of a thing. And a lot of them, you know, they're all good people and they all ended up okay in the end. But I can remember as teenagers, lots of them were involved in things like, you know, robbing trucks and stuff like that, you know, just to avoid ending up in the same fate as their grandfather and great-grandfather. You know, my great-grandfather, their father and great-grandfather.
Yes.
And I totally understand why they went like that, you know. And that's the trauma. And when I see things like, oh, Africans, Americans, and, you know, they have a crime problem and everything. I said, for Christ's sake, their great-grandparents, some of them were children of slaves.
Yes.
Stuff doesn't end overnight.
No.
It takes a long time to break through, you know. And so I know where that comes from, you know. I know where it comes from.
Yeah, well, I think knowing that gives us the ability to have more compassion with people when we're interacting with them, you know.
We're doing ancestral healing at some of the workshops that before the COVID bollocks started down in Devon, go 4 times a year, and we'll be working with these 2 healers and going back through the ancestral lines, and it was absolutely fascinating. One of them had the spiritual sight. You can actually tune into people and explain, and it became farcical though, because you got, well, the reason you got this now is because your great-great-granddad's, you know, and all this, it goes on. But it was absolutely fascinating. It was so they actually managed to heal you in the present, going back through the ancestral lines. And I mean, that's quite a skill.
Yeah, for sure.
But it was really, I mean, when you mentioned that earlier, it's just it's just, it's not something you'd immediately associate with, you know, what you're doing now.
Yeah, right.
And
I think we get so it's easy to be focused on our own trauma and not look at why we were traumatized by the people that did it to us, you know.
Well, Tina was mentioning Black Lives Matter. That's all rich white people.
Yes.
Their ancestors probably in America probably had slaves.
Yes.
And here they are being the champions of the people that their ancestors oppressed. You know, it's like I often told you, Jason, I knew some people at one time in Cambridge, in a bunch of lefties in Cambridge in England, involved in the SWP and all that stuff there. They were all like stately home types with like their families were like, you know, had plantations in India and the Transvaal, and this kind of thing. And here they were like, yo, the worker, and all this kind of crap.
Yeah, but these people cannot even save themselves. Who else are they going to save?
Exactly.
No one.
But it was like, I wouldn't mind the fact that they have a guilt complex. I could understand that. But often the target was ordinary working class people who had nothing. And that's what always bothered me.
I think it's a play. They're playing both ends against the middle. Like, they're faking that they give a shit about Black lives completely. They're just trying to create a distraction from what we really should be doing, which is creating ourselves, right? They're trying to
people that feel that the world owes them something will never believe that they themselves have to change.
Right. Well, but I don't think we have to even worry about them, because I think actually, like, spending our time focusing on them distracts us from focusing on what we really want to be creating, right?
We forget completely. We should just ignore these people.
Yeah, 100%. That's what I think.
Yeah.
Just 100%
Contact is
ignore
a
them.
beautiful thing, and all this kind of pathological forces. Just walk away from it,
Yes. And the alternative media serves empire as much as the mainstream media does. Like, they're all, and just like I would say, all the regular culture, pop culture is there to distract you from yourself. Because what's the most threatening thing to empire? Selves, integrated, healed selves.
Yeah, there's a tremendous amount of social engineering there on the media, whether it's the mainstream media or the alt media. It's, lots of pockets of pulling people into fixed ideas. And the individual, is something that's feared by the establishment. And the social engineering makes sure that you don't think as an individual, that you think as a group. Yeah, group think. Yeah.
And if you do think as an individual, they want you to feel very, very alone. Like there aren't anyone else like you. And I don't even care if there's anybody that thinks like me, as long as they're thinking differently from what the mainstream is. Like, as differently as you can think from what culture is doing, I think that's great.
Honestly, after the last year, the last thing I think is that I'm alone.
Right?
I do not think I'm alone. I met all of you people in ways that I would never have imagined 5 years ago from here.
Right? So the pressure, it's like creating diamonds out of coal. The whole, this is such a beautiful evolutionary event, I think.
Yeah, we're allowed to reinvent ourselves finally.
Yes.
In a way we want, because it's like a clean slate.
But this whole, all of us hanging out together right now, that's really, that whole idea was born out of that.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I love it. It's so fun. Thank you so much for letting me join in.
I know. It's like when I first met Tina, I think she was kind of shy and kind of reserved. And now you're out there. It's funny, in a very short time it's happened, it's just funny,
That has been my pattern all over my life. I'm really shy when I meet people first. I tend to hold back. I don't say much. I observe. But once I get a feeling of a person and I don't feel that there is an agenda or a way in, you want a handle on me, you want to manipulate me a certain way, and this is what I feel with all of you.
Yeah, when
I can open up, and I do so happily. Very, very happily. I'm really happy to be here and see you all. It's I know I sit back a lot, I listen.
Yeah. Your story of like when you left Belgium on the cusp of the Rona, the lockdown, and made your way to Italy. A lot of Jason's stories. Jason has a lot of good travel stories like that too. It's interesting how some of like Jason's stories are the triggers are similar to what you did in Belgium, although it wasn't conscious. It was like, now it's time to go here. You know what I'm saying? A lot of your stories, Jason, I like that.
Which one?
Yeah, I don't know your story, Jason, but to me it felt like my story in Belgium is finished. I can not go anywhere here anymore without being recognized, without being referred to in a certain way. It's finished.
Well,
I will not ever grow beyond myself.
Jason, you lived in Denmark for years and years. Didn't your wife is Danish and your kids are born there?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that was a weird thing, because it was like I had no idea about Denmark. I'd never been there. I'd never met any Danish people. But then I was traveling in Australia, and I bumped into, well, I met my wife basically. We ended up traveling together, and then she came back to London and lived in London for a couple of years. And then she said, "Let's move to Denmark." And I was like, "Well, why not?" You know, I was pretty sick of England at the time, and I'd never lived anywhere else. So we headed over to Copenhagen and set up a new life there. And to start with, I really enjoyed it. But then within about a year, I think, and this was a common theme that I found out later on, that almost all expats go through. To start with, it's fantastic because you believe all the hype. But then you start noticing weird things about society. You realize it becomes very sort of Stepford Wives, and nobody seems to have, like, I'll probably get in trouble for talking about this, but there's like a consensus reality there that everybody is the same. And, you know, you can go out and it's very difficult to find anybody that you can talk to anything about. And, you know, it's very conformist, like to the extreme. And it just starts to crush your soul, like bit by bit. And after a while, I just couldn't stand it anymore. I had to leave.
You wrote that book, the road to Odin's Lake.
Oh, Path to Odin's Lake, yeah.
Yeah, and that was like the same thing in Sweden. Like, I got the impression reading that as like, you know, please be a human with me. Please give me your humanity. And a lot of Scandinavia is like that. I spent a lot of time, not recently, but like in the last up to about 5 years ago in Norway. I was traveling around between Norway and Ireland. And when I first got to Norway, it was like, wow, they have so much money here. It's fantastic, the nature, the scenery. But the same thing, the conformity.
Yeah. And I work for a Norwegian company now, and I'm talking on Zoom with them all day, every day. And I've learned never go to a Zoom meeting 1 minute before it starts, because they all talk about the vaccine.
Wow.
All the time. And which one have you had? Have you had Pfizer? I've had Moderna. So, you know, I try and avoid that.
Absolute opposite here, Jason. Whenever I meet Italians, they are so very much opposed to this whole thing.
Really?
I mean, it's hard for me to explain it in a way, because it is one thing to share videos about it on social media, but it's one thing to be. It's another thing to be here. I feel this fire, this absolute passion, this nuclear explosion that these people have inside themselves. They do absolutely not agree with this whole. Yes, you might see these videos on social media about the prime minister saying that, we have so much support under the populace. This is just not true at all. You have to go to any major city in Italy here and find massive, absolute opposition, an opposition that is ready to fight. Take it to the physical level.
I always thought the fight back would come from Southern Europe.
Yeah.
Because in Northern Europe, and certainly in Scandinavia, people have been programmed for a long time, I think. I actually think that after the Second World War, there was so many, all that money pouring in to Scandinavia to keep it on the left-hand side of the Iron Curtain. There was a lot of strings attached to that, a lot of them. And I think that those countries were used as kind of laboratories for social experiments.
And the pharmaceuticals, everybody in Norway is on psych meds. And they often talk about how Scandinavians are the happiest people in Europe and the world.
Yeah.
It's because they're all stoned on pharmaceutical drugs like Ritalin and Prozac and Xanax. I used to come back to Dublin from Oslo. Oslo is this huge airport. I'd arrive in Dublin airport and it was just like, I'd be shocked by, oh, look, children smiling, people smiling, people laughing. That passion that Tina was talking, it's like, it was true what George Bernard Shaw said, Irish people are Italians trapped in the rain. And it was, that was true, you know? And go back to Norway, all this glumness. But I had one experience, actually, the last time I was in Oslo airport, there was a plane to Dublin. And you know, when you go into these like waiting areas before you go onto the plane, the gates, and there was these women who were drunk and they were screaming and laughing and joking. And I assumed that they were Irish women, like coming back from a hen party or a stag thing, or like a holiday. They were actually Norwegian women. And as soon as they knew they were going to get onto a flight to Ireland, they were allowed to be, we're free. We can get drunk, we can have a laugh, we can have lots of fun. It was the weirdest thing. It was like just as the flight was being called, they were allowed to be human again. Very spooky actually.
Yeah, I saw that over and over again.
The United States seems to be very conformist too, and the further south you get, the more independent and stubborn you are. So do you think that it might have something to do with our proximity to the sun?
I don't know.
Because it's not the same on the West Coast, because at the same latitude, if you go over from Alabama to Southern California through Arizona, it's not. I think it's something, to me, I think it's something spiritually left over from, I mean, this is out there. I think it could be part of Atlantis is left over in the South. That's the impression that I got when I was stationed in the South, is that you still have bits of the Atlantean culture all the way through into around like the bayou areas, you know, and through Mississippi, Louisiana.
Jason, the only conformists as you go laterally are in the urban areas where they're detached from life. So is there something about living in a city that makes you already kind of needing to conform in order to make it possible to live in a city, maybe?
Well, in the city, you are no longer connected to your natural habitat. And we as Europeans, and say what you want about white Americans living in Americans, you're all European by heritage, by ancestry. The forest is your natural habitat. And once you disconnect from that, there is a disconnect from the soul.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
It also depends on the cities. Cities all have different vibes to them. Like up where Bill is from, Newcastle and Tyne, I find the people up there incredibly funny and laid back, and just really, you feel like Liverpudlians, and you feel really happy to be around them. There's just something about them. Where you go down to Cambridge, where Ian was from, and you just want to get on the first train out of the place. So it depends on the people in the city. Like the cities in America I remember I was in Syracuse in upstate New York, and that was a horrible place, horrible energy. And then, you know, Albany was another, you know, and then you go, you know, there'd be places that really surprised me that I thought would be really boring and stuff, like Portland, Maine, and it was actually a wonderful place. So it just goes to show you, it's really where the people, you know, like even down where you are, Jason, Penzance, I found that kind of dull and a bit morose. I don't know, you live there, so you know better than me, but I found the rest of Cornwall more fun than the city itself.
Yeah, I mean, you could be right.
Yeah.
Actually, I had a lot of fun in Penzance with my friends. I was actually living in a converted stable just from Land's End on Selling Cove, I think it was called.
Oh, yeah.
White Sands Bay. Yeah. And we had a great time at Penzance. We broke into the cathedral and stole the cassocks and went down Penzance, blessing everybody. So what a wonderful time.
That's what people do here for fun.
Yeah. But going back to what you're saying about Newcastle, Thomas, it's quite amazing how many people love coming up. I live way above Newcastle, up in the hills, but from Newcastle area, and everybody says how friendly we are. You know,
unbelievable, and very funny and great sense of humor. It's like the three places in the UK would be Liverpool, Newcastle, and Glasgow, where I feel completely at home the minute I arrive. And it's full of characters, and the people have no bullshit about them. There's absolutely no bullshit in them, and they're very straight up. I find that there's something to do with the accent. I find that Newcastle people have very strong accent, but they're very strong personalities. Liverpudlians have very strong accents, very strong personalities. Glaswegians, the same. There's something about the accent. The accent is almost where you go to places like in America, where the vast Midwest, no one has an accent other than a standard American accent.
It's
They don't
Jello
have,
salad land, is
they
what I.
don't have a culture either. So
Yeah, and they're the most. They're kind, but they're so boring.
yeah, I know.
Like just like, oh my goodness.
And I found that in Scandinavia as well, even though they had like their Danish and their Norwegian accent, it was very like Norway is a huge country from north to south. It's like 1,000 miles long.
Oh.
You know, it's massive. It's much bigger than Ireland. And the same accent in Oslo that you got in Tromso up in the Arctic Circle near the North Pole, you know, in a vast country that was really long, it was the same accent.
Yeah.
Wow.
Mhm.
Interesting. My ancestors are Norwegian.
Oh, it's a beautiful country and the people are very nice. But again, what Jason says, those people, something that's done to them.
I agree with that because
the Vikings have been destroyed in them or something.
Yes.
Whereas the Lutheran Church or somebody started it. They had
a long time ago, because I see that in my family as far back as I have can look at that side of my family, right?
If I go to the west coast of Norway around Trondheim, they look like me. They could be my cousins or my family because they can see the Viking heritage and they look like me exactly. Same look. Yet they're so different. And I'm saying, like, okay, if I still have the Viking spirit into me, what happened to the original ones? And I think Jason is right on the money. They paid a price for their closeness to the Soviet Union. And Norway's interesting because I spoke to a guy in Norway once and he says, why has Norway got a gigantic military? You know, they're the same population of Ireland, but you have a military that could like literally take on anybody.
Thomas, I can tell you what happened to the Gauls in Belgium when Caesar came.
Don't tell me.
What he did was he offered us tax-free living in Rome. So basically, us Gauls were welcome in Rome, and we were able to live tax-free for the rest of our lives on the sole condition that we offered our sons the Roman war machine.
So the same model the EU uses was used by the Roman Imperial Empire 2,000 plus years ago.
Yeah.
Nothing changes.
Well, so I don't believe that Roman Empire ever actually ended. I think it just kind of
no, they didn't.
Now
in fact, right now there are a tax-free empire within the Italian peninsula.
But
they're tax-free for a reason.
But look at
it's not because they have a 2,000-year history. It's because they have power.
But like, even look at the country of Belgium. It was invented out of thin air at the end of the Napoleonic Wars. What was the Treaty of Vienna? They just said, like, we need a place in Europe where where everyone can do business. And they created Belgium out of that. And that's why NATO and the EU and everyone else is there. They literally just carved out a piece of the Netherlands and said, this is the new country. And they even gave you the English royal family as your king, didn't they? It's very strange, you know, like it's the same thing, the same model from the Roman days.
Well, I think it's a really, really long game, longer than a lifespan for sure.
I don't necessarily think it is by intent. I don't think that it was intended this way in a sense that it was envisioned.
Yeah.
I think it was just a continuation of unfortunate events.
Well, the Catholic Church is the Roman Empire really to this day. And if you look at their fingers, at the way they're extended into banking and education and particularly healthcare through hospitals, they're still running everything, you know, because ultimately hospitals will order all the pharmaceuticals and all the biotech. Schools will determine the control of people.
They will get all those financial incentives too.
Yep, and they own half the banks, you know.
And the one world religion is now medicine. It's like, and everybody is, you have to be a Christian, get your shot.
You have to accept the one God,
and go to the
first jab.
The white coat that is going to sacrifice you to this unknown God. Who knows? But you won't catch me dead in a hospital. I'll be here. Like,
I was talking to some English friends who've moved here, and they're retirement age, and she needs an operation. They're in their 60s. She needs an operation on her leg, and they've both like had a talk, like literally in the last few days, are telling us that like if it comes down to taking the jab or in order not to get the operation, they will forego the operation, which just goes to show you the level of resistance to it.
yes.
You know, and these are people that they live their whole lives in England. They've moved to Ireland to retire, and you know they're enjoying. They have a nice life now. They have a lovely house under the mountains and everything. And she got sick, and that's unfortunate. But they've decided, and they decided no jab, it's not going to happen. I'd rather die, and that's a powerful stance when you think about it, isn't it? And they both just an elderly couple, and they both made that decision. They're not going to put that needle in us.
And your average normie just can't understand that.
No.
Absolutely.
Well, because they don't have any principles at all.
Or why would
That's
they?
really the bottom line is they're completely principleless, and they're driven by whatever the herd is doing. They just don't even have.
Yes, exactly. Everything is pre-chewed. Everything is cookie cutter. Why would they bother?
It's so easy to do it that way, you know?
You
And
won't-
standing out doesn't feel good.
Of course not, because it will make you mocked, ostracized, be told you are a plague rat.
Yeah, exactly. Whatever, bring it.
But also we have to be careful of our own minds, because she was saying that, I was talking to her last week, and she was very frightened of going into the hospital up here for a checkup, that thinking that they were going to like say, you better get the jab right now. And nothing like that happened at all. They were very friendly and nice and everything.
Yes.
We're also have to be careful we don't overthink things ourselves.
Yes.
I don't think most doctors agree with this. In fact, I think most doctors think of this as bullshit.
Yes.
That is why most doctors don't actually tell you to take this shot, especially when they know your medical history. You know you have a history of this or that. They tell you, don't do this.
I had a story last week or maybe the week before, and I was really surprised when the nurse, because they go through and they have to ask you a bunch of questions, and she was like, okay, flu shot. And I was like, no. She goes, would you like the COVID shot? And I was like, no, thank you. And she goes, okay. Like, she didn't push it. And I really, like, I wanted to tell her, thank you so much for not making that a big fucking deal. And she just passed right on, like, if she'd asked me what my color was. It was not.
I don't think she cares if you take the shot, Timony. I truly don't think she cares, because I think that this person has enough experience in the medical field to know that this won't lead anywhere.
I personally know lots of nurses personally who are about to lose their jobs because they refuse to take this vaccination.
I have clients who are in that position right now, and it's really
and they're going to stand. Well, on one hand it is, but I can kind of see past this part. There is going to be a wealth of compassionate, well-educated professionals to service people like you and me, because going to the traditional hospital in 6 months, all that's going to be working there are people that will have no problem killing you.
Right.
I mean, they just none. They'll be like, oh, well, you know what? You're 47, Nicole. Here's your tracheotomy. Yeah.
Because of my asthma, I could drop dead at any second. So I'm kind of dependent a lot on my GP. And there's two of them. There's one is like a traditional Irish country doctor, very nice man, very good, no problem, excellent doctor, very conservative and old-fashioned, but like a typical Irish kind of doctor, you know, like a throwback to a different time. Is the guy that works with him is a Pakistani guy who's like a nice guy as well, really good doctors. Neither one of them in the last year have even remotely suggested I go for the jab.
Oh, that's wonderful.
So that's really, I think, really positive.
Yeah, that is a positive.
No, that's they never. Not one of them have even bothered to suggest that. You know.
That's good, Thomas. I'm glad to hear.
You're
that.
lucky.
Yeah.
Yeah, my wife, she phoned up to get a blood test the other day, and the GP was practically yelling at her on the phone to get the jab. And he actually said, like, do you know that the local hospital is full of COVID patients that are dying? And she said, well, I work in the hospital, and it isn't.
That's awesome.
And then that shut him up.
Yeah.
Well, and if they are in the hospital dying, it's because you guys are killing them.
Yeah.
I mean, the protocol is not, I personally think that it's a mass sacrifice, and they're asking people to volunteer. And people are, not knowing what they're volunteering for.
Stupid is as stupid does.
Yeah,
I ended up in A&E about 2 months ago. I woke up with vertigo, and it was quite terrifying. And funny as well, though, because I didn't phone 999, I phoned my homeopath in Devon, who then said, "You better ring 999 in case you've got a 999 in case you've had a stroke." You know, so it then became a farce because they had to find me, and I'm way out right in the wilds here, and that a break.
No, I think that person was actually literally trying to black magic you there.
No. Anyway, I ended up in A&E. I mean, the people in the ambulance were amazing. I had all these conversations against the vaccines and stuff. When I got to A&E, they said, you can't come in unless you wear a mask. They gave me a mask. They didn't take any notice at all. I didn't wear it or anything. Wheeled me in, and they kind of got things sorted out, worked out what it was. And I was just struck by there's a lot how untogether they were in the hospital. The nurses were losing things. They were forgetting things for people. Maybe they've been vaccinated. I don't know. But there wasn't I was expecting to be bullied, but I wasn't at all.
That's good.
But what got me was the untogetherness. They were lovely, but one of them left a patient in the toilet, forgot to go and get him, and he couldn't walk. You know, and
they're understaffed, like really, really badly understaffed at the moment.
It's not
a lot of them are not turning up.
Or that the ICU units are overflowing. It's there's not enough staff. They've quit. They've walked out. I have 4 or 5 different nurse clients, and I see them every month. And so I've been asking them, like, how's work going? You know, how are things at the hospital? And they're like, it's not the ICU beds. We are not overflowing. We don't have enough nurses.
Yeah, and it's a self-fulfilling.
That's because you've been laying them all off because they won't take the COVID shot.
Right. Well, the whole thing is on purpose to like terrify people, to enslave people. This is like the big push, and it's like on all levels.
I will not be bottlenecked into this.
Sorry, Terry.
What you're saying in Jason about understaffed in England in the NHS. I was talking to a nurse, an ICU nurse, she works in Birmingham, and she resigned rather than take the shot. She's now going to law school to become a lawyer.
Awesome.
But she just said no. Now her boyfriend is a neurosurgeon, which is like, you know, they're not a dime a dozen. And apparently he's already said, if they make me take the shot. Now a neurosurgeon, you know, this is a guy who's on the forefront of medicine, right? In the NHS in England, you know, if anyone is worth advice taking, it's his, right? And he says he's not taking the shot, and he'll walk away from his career. And he's a young guy too, as a neurosurgeon. Now, you never hear these people in the media being spoken about or talked about.
Never.
An ICU nurse and a neurosurgeon saying, "I'd retrain for a new career rather than take the shot."
Well, have you seen the charts that show that the most hesitation with vaccinations, it increases like the PhD level?
It's on both ends. It's like it's people who never went to university. And
the people that went to a lot.
Yeah, and the ones who went to master's degrees in gender studies and
those are the ones that are all
like evolutionary philosophy. They're the ones who are all like lining up for it. But like it's interesting, people that went to tech school or trade school, you have street smarts and PhD. Well, they've done a real degree that involves research, and they know what research really is. And in the middle, all being wiped out.
Yeah.
Weird.
It's fascinating.
Yeah.
To look at, like, to remove yourself from your individuality right here and kind of pull up and look at it from a bigger perspective. It's really a fascinating time to be alive.
Yeah, I found that chart very comforting, actually. It was like, actually, that's my that's how I viewed life. That, like, sort of street smart people and highly intelligent people that have done hands-on work are the only ones who are keeping this planet together. You know, like real skilled people on both ends of the spectrum, both in the trades and in the sciences, are literally the only ones keeping this world together. And that chart that you mentioned, Nicole, absolutely just said that. There it is, right there.
Yep. Yeah, it really was a beautiful picture of truth.
And in the middle, people with useless degrees being vanguards of the orthodoxy.
Right. Well, it's kind of like I was telling a friend, it's like very much like childbirth, which I have experienced. And it's painful, it's terrifying, it's really messy, it's destructive. But in the end, you have this beautiful baby. So imagine all the middle goes away and all that's left are people that think. What an amazing world we're going to have after this all kind of shakes out through the sieve, right?
Yeah, amen to that.
Hope so.
Yeah.
I was going to ask everyone earlier on, but now that Nicole has said that, segues beautifully, starting with Timothy and ending with Bill. At this point in the proceedings concerning the whole Rona thing, how do you feel about everything right now in terms of, are we in a good place, a bad place, are we getting better, or what?
I want to go first.
Okay.
Yes, we are in an absolutely good place. We couldn't have been in a better place. We are liked by people.
Yeah, I agree with Tina.
You couldn't have been in a better place politically, because look, every politician is hated at some point in their life. We are not, because we are not politicians. And that's basically the only thing I have to say.
Yeah, I would agree with Tina. I think we're in a really great place. There's a lot of darkness. There's a lot of opposition. There's a lot of things that we could dwell on and feel really shitty about. Relationships break down and family members don't want to talk to one another anymore over shit like this. But it's sort of like a really great experiment in alchemy. And we get to decide where we want to go and where we want to end up and with who we want to be there with. And we get to make these huge life-altering decisions, which some of it is not going to feel great. Like I said, with family members and friends, things like that, those sort of fall off. But we have found each other, and I think that's fucking beautiful. And I love you guys, and I'm so thankful for all of you. And it really helps when you feel like you're sitting there alone in the darkness to know that you're not. But you get to make some fucking life-affirming decisions for yourself, and I think that's fucking dope.
Yeah.
I agree with both Tina and Timothy there that it's a good thing. It was a really tough thing for me being in the Seattle area for a while, just because there it was like, your primary care provider and everyone telling you need to get the needlecraft and everything. But just, a couple hundred miles the other direction over here in Eastern Washington, it's a totally different group of people.
We give way less of a fuck over here.
Right. And which has been wonderful. It's like a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, like I wouldn't have known any of you guys. I wouldn't have met anyone here, Thomas, Timothy, Tina, all of you guys. Like it's just a new group of people that I wouldn't have known that I had such things in common with, because the people that I spent most of my life with are all part of the orthodoxy. So it's been really beautiful, like finding this group of people that are on the same page. And then some of the people from my normie life that are, have been hidden on the side of not wanting to take needlecraft have been coming through. And it's just like the people that I've known from Normie life that have been, actually true friends the whole time have shown themselves. And then all the other people, all the other noise that we've, picked up along the way in relationships and marriages that have failed, it's just like it all ends. And, the people that truly have your back are the ones that remain.
I would say, going back, reading Wired magazine back in the 1990s, I used to hear Terence McKenna would write the odd article for them, and he'd be talking about go find the others, go find, he would talk about like everything from James Joyce to like particle physics, but he would always say, come back to like, go find the others. And I found the others because of the fucking last year and a half.
Exactly.
It's just like the same thing. And I was watching a documentary there, an interview, an amazing interview. It was from the 90s of a 97-year-old veteran of World War I. And he said that he described the horrors of World War I, the trenches in your part of the world, Tina. And he said they were given 7 days leave. And even though every single one of them had the advantage to go desert and run away and not come back to the front line, with all the horrors, they still came back to their friends, because they had discovered amongst all that horror, true friendship. And that's what this reminds me of, finding the others in the time of adversity.
Yep.
So true.
Yeah.
I've lived through a couple of different natural disasters, and what's always interesting is it's really hard and traumatic, but there's nothing like a hurricane party after the destruction, and neighbors getting together and helping each other. And on the news, they show you like FEMA trucks bringing water and shit, which is all, that's good and grateful. And I did get some water from a truck after it was Ike that I was in Houston. But it was more the neighbors helping each other and barbecuing up all the defrosting meat together, and just, that's what sustains. So it's almost like, oh, there's a disaster coming, good times will be after that, right? And all of the, I lost my mom and dad and oldest daughter in a landslide in Washington State in 2014. And right after that, it was in Darrington, so it's very rural up there. And so my dad was a conspiracy theorist in the late 80s and an anti-government activist in Snohomish County, Washington. And so, I was homeschooled from 1988. So I've known all of this shit. Yes, last year went down and I'm like, oh shit, this is what I trained for. Yeah. I've been watching this coming for 20 years or more. So that landslide happened, and it took out like 1.5 miles of road in this little town. It's 1,200 people, and it's like the only road in or out. And it cut off all their communications. And my thought, I lived in Houston. My thought was, oh my gosh, they're going to move all those people out of the mountains, because it's been their agenda for a long time to get people out of the rural areas and push them urban. And I thought, well, this is a beautiful time. The road's wiped out. We don't have any money. I was really surprised that the state went in and fixed it all up as fast as they did. But what was most wonderful about that was the first responders were neighbors, and they were out there in the mud digging for people, hearing the cries and looking for those people. And what the state did? They came in and threatened to arrest the people that were out looking for my people. And fortunately, they're all badass, independent logging people. And they just looked at the state and said, where would you like us to put this fence? Because we're moving it. And they did. They went in with their machines, and that gave me so much hope for how people are a lot less willing to go along with bullshit when it's their neighbors being pressed on or not searched for, or
they'll come help. They will help.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It was, and then the Red Cross came, and we have funeral ladies in Darrington. So every time somebody dies in town, there's like 10 churches in this town of 1,200 people, and all the ladies from different churches get together and put a dinner on for the family of whoever lost their people. So, I mean, it's very community. Like, even though they hate each other and they'll backstab each other, they'll just show up and cook them food, right? So the funeral ladies were like at the community center as soon as anybody heard that this had happened to start making sandwiches for the guys that were out looking for the people. And the Red Cross showed up a couple days after it happened, and they said, okay, we're here. And the funeral ladies are like, okay, well, there's your 8-foot table in the corner because we've got this, you know? So it was quite, even though it was catastrophic, horrible, like I'll never be healed from that loss. There was so much beauty and good that came from that loss. I can't say that I regret it, which is a really weird place to be.
Well, I saw a documentary once about people in England who lived during the Blitz, the Battle of Britain, where the Luftwaffe were bombing different cities every night, and you didn't know if you were going to be alive the next morning. And people were, the whole war, for years after the war, were living in, you live in like a family would live on one egg a day, and they'd have to find a way to like grow veggies in the back or try to do other things. And it was just really difficult. And then you might have the Luftwaffe coming in that night and bombing the shit out of the city. And they asked all the same people, like, it must have been hell. And they all said the same thing. It was the happiest time of our lives. We were so happy because we were all together and we were all taking care of each other.
Yeah, when I lived in Louisville, I went through, I lived there for 2 years. And in the 2 years I was there, I went through 3 federal disasters. One was a hurricane, 2 of them were hurricanes, and one was a really horrific ice storm. And every time, you know, the whole block would shut down, there was no electricity, you know, it was fucking minus 20 degrees outside. Everything was shit. But you met everybody on the block and everybody came out and shared what resources they had. And it's like, you know, Billy Joe Bob from, you know, 3 houses down on the 3rd block over, I would have never met him. Right. But he came over and he brought water and I gave him candles. Like, it was amazing. It was amazing.
Yeah. So the pressure is a good thing, I think. I think it brings out the diamonds in us.
Yeah.
I think it's a scary time, but it's also a beautiful time.
Yeah.
I mean, it really, the last 18 months, it really has been like, you know, like when you're in the cinema watching a film and at the end the lights come on and you see everyone sat around you. All of a sudden you can see people for what they really are. I mean, I've lost nearly all my friends, I think, you know, and family members too. But at the same time, I made new ones.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I saw a couple of weeks ago, I saw my supposed best friend that I hadn't seen for 4 or 5 years, and he's married to a doctor. And we met up and we're having a nice chat. And then the V word came up, and I said, "Oh, I haven't had it yet." He was just absolutely horrified. And he made his excuses and left. They both left, you know.
Yeah, because
they couldn't believe it. They didn't want to be near me as like I was a mutant. Yeah. So it's this kind of like psychological pressure because, you know, like when we were being bombed by the Nazis in the Blitz, we had a common enemy that we could focus on. Yeah. But now it's like, well, the psychological manipulation is so great. And like, who's on our side? You know, is the government on our side? Is our next door neighbor on our side? So it makes it really difficult to negotiate the terrain. But, you know, they say evolution works fastest in the most difficult conditions. So I think that, you know, we're speeding towards something a lot better. I see my job for the time being is just looking after I've got 2 teenage daughters, so I have to make sure that they're okay because they're under all sorts of like peer pressure. But it's been a great opportunity for me. I've got a piece of land. I've been, you know, working on growing food, setting up my systems to make life more sustainable and bearable, and trying to make links with other people around me.
Jason, when you talk to your girls, because I've had to have this conversation with my 7-year-old son, talk to them about this, what's going on. How do you approach that with them? Just, I'm curious as a parent.
Well, one of them's 16 and the other one is 18. The one who's 18 has just studied psychology. So she learned all about propaganda and everything, techniques. So I showed her a few videos, but I don't want to go too like conspiracy theory on her because I don't want to be one of those dads.
Right.
So it's like kind of yeah, let's watch this, and then watching various videos about doctors saying how.
Okay, but Jason, as a chef, I made connections with people in higher places. I mean, politicians, celebrities, and everything. You people trusted me to cook for you less than 5 years ago.
Right.
You trusted me implicitly to cook your food. What changed?
Yeah.
Well, and it's not even a deadly virus to healthy people that aren't old, and that's what makes it so fucking ridiculous.
If I hear one more
actually a deadly virus to people that weren't old or almost dead anyway, it would make some sense, but it makes zero sense.
It makes zero sense, exactly in that sense for me, because these people that trusted me 5 years ago to cook their food don't trust me to go near themselves right now.
Ridiculous.
Why is that?
Because they're stupid and brainwashed.
I had to, my son asked me the other day something about why, he's like, well, Mom, I've had shots before. And I was like, I know, and I've had them too. He goes, so why do you have a bad feeling about this one? And so I have to scale down my thinking to talk to a 6, almost 7-year-old kid. But his dad and I have never spoken down to him. We've always, put it in terms that he can understand, but we've always spoken on the level with him. And basically I was just like, well, there's a few things why this one is different. You never roll out vaccines during the height of a pandemic. It just makes whatever the bug is, I'm talking to him, stronger. It makes it evolve quicker and faster. So more people are going to get sick a lot easier, and it's going to be a lot worse than if they would have just left it alone. I can't remember exactly what else I said to him. I think Jason was there when I was having this conversation with him, but I was like, and I wasn't telling him what to think or how to think, but he has obviously been hearing what the mainstream narrative is about these things. And he has a set of grandparents, which they're great grandparents to him. I will never say that they're not, but they're also the most COVID scared people on the entire fucking face of the planet, and won't see him for the most part, because they're worried about things like that. And so he understands it from that perspective of there's family members now that won't see him because they're afraid of something that he may or may not be carrying. And that's been a really difficult thing to try and explain to him that it's not your fault and there's nothing wrong with you and you didn't do anything wrong. People have, they can choose to protect themselves in whatever way they want to, but he's only been hearing one side of things. And so I'm so glad that even as a 6-year-old, almost 7-year-old kid, he's intelligent enough to know how to ask certain types of questions. And the way that I communicate with him leads him to make his own conclusions, but I never lie to him.
Yeah, you do a really good job of it too. So.
Nice.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
It's the ongoing challenge.
Yeah.
But as everyone says, we're finding the others.
Yes.
And I think I think we should wrap this up on that note. That, and also the people in the comments below the video, remember, it seems very painful at times, but at the same time too, it's like what Nicole said, it takes pressure to make a diamond, and there's a lot of truth to that. And even if you're a tiny diamond or a big bright diamond, the pressure will create that. If anything, what we've learned about is the experience of human. Maybe some of us who might have had it easy until this experience are suddenly finding it rough. And, maybe that's maybe we need that fire under our arse. But I do think we're actually at what Jason said just then about the people looked at me like he was a pariah or something. That to me is amazing, because that hasn't happened to me at all yet. But if it did, I think I'd be quite hurt by it and quite. It definitely would damage me to a little bit, my soul to a little bit. But at the same, that has not happened to me for some reason. That has not happened to me yet.
We were walking through the grocery store the other day, and all of the stores have the signs up that say, mask mandates, whatever. Luckily, on this side of the state, it's more of just a formality. They have those up, but they don't really give a shit if you do or not. So we were walking in to buy water or whatever we were buying, and there was an elderly couple, and we were both heading towards grabbing a cart. And the wife put her arm across her husband to stop him from going any further because they were going to be within 6 feet of us. And we just kind of looked at them almost with sorrow, that's how you live your life now. That's how you are going to interact with the human race. And we're the nicest fucking people you'll ever meet.
That's so sad.
But you're going to treat us like we're fucking lepers.
Yeah.
It was horrible.
Yeah.
It really hurt because go ahead.
I don't know. And that's just what it is over in the Seattle area, just 150 miles over the road. It's everybody wears a goddamn mask, and everybody, even if everyone's masked up, they keep their distance in the store. And it's just weird how split it is. But yeah, the pariah thing, Jason, I can relate to that too with in-laws and stuff that just so weird about it that, just
you were not welcome anymore.
Yeah, you're excommunicated from the family, so to speak, because you won't have your genes manipulated.
If it wasn't our paganism that got us kicked out of the family, it was this.
I have just one little thing to say that might help you reframe that kind of experience. And it's when people with masks jump away from you, reframe it like you're being protected from them. Because they're claiming they're sick. And they're protecting you because obviously they're ill. And if you look at it like that, and not that you're the threat, but here they are protecting you because they know they're sick. Yeah. And in your own mind, I think that might help you feel a little bit stronger.
Yeah, I mean, it only lasted for a couple of seconds, and then I was over it. I don't really give a fuck.
But no, it really is something.
Honestly, Nicole, they are sick. They are sick in the mind.
Yeah, they totally are. And it's a protection that they're not getting close to you. Thank you very much. Fuck off, man.
It was weird. And maybe I have a soft spot for people that are grandparents' age or something. But yeah, their reaction to us being the dirty, unclean was really unnerving.
Honestly, I took it as a kind of a badge of honor. When Thomas said they're calling us plague rats, I'm like,
fuck yeah.
I'm with you, Tina. I'm with you.
Look, it's like the line, it's like that line in the movie. I've been changed. I'm all, I've come here to chew gum and kick ass.
Yes.
I've come here to chew gum and kill grannies, and I'm all out of it. Good night, folks. Take care.
Have a great night. This
Thank you,
was
Thomas.
so fun.
Thank you, everybody else.
I love you all.
Yeah.
Good night, everybody. Good night.
Next week.
Bye.
Yeah, see ya.